Pirate's Most Powerful Villain, Chapter 521-540. Chapter 0521 Kneel Down and Repent. Shikai of the Knights of the Round Table has two forms. The first one, the liberation languages, draw your sword, Knight of the Round Table. In this form, the soul is cut without the body, ignoring the physical defense, and cutting directly on the soul. Once the corners of Asanjing Renji and Madaramu were killed by this one move to easily defeated. As for the second form, the liberation languages, awaken, Knights of the Round Table. This form of Zanpakudo, the blade of which is plated with a layer of golden brilliance, is the sword of Neo, and its ability is more direct and straightforward. At this moment, the King of Knights swept out with a sword, and suddenly the golden light flickered. Mere Shikai, I can't even break my steel skin. Saras snorted coldly, raised his right arm, and resisted the slashing sword. As a broken face of the Achuka's class void, he gave up abilities such as super speed regeneration, and while gaining powerful strength, he also had a steel-like skin. The sword of the King of Knights fell and slashed on Saras's arm, but only cut open the opponent's clothes, leaving a shallow trace on his skin. I don't even know the opponent's ability, so I rashly use my body to resist as this kind of idiot. The King of Knights chuckled lightly and suddenly exerted his strength. The sword that slashed at the opponent's arm slammed out, and in an instant, Saras' complexion changed slightly, and the whole person was knocked dozens or hundreds of meters away in one breath. What is this? He suddenly covered his forehead, his eyes widened, and his whole person appeared in a trance. Deep in his heart, there seemed to be a kind of self-loathing born, torturing his heart. No, Shu has no heart, but at this moment, Sephiroth felt the existence of the heart. Isn't it incredible? King of Knights chuckled twice. So, before you understand the enemy's ability, it is stupid to use your body to fight hard because you have steel skin. Between the words, the Night King's smile faded, and he said indifferently, kneel down, break your face, and repent. Hearing these words suddenly, Saras' body shook, and his legs felt uncontrollable, as if there was a voice in his heart that was affecting his will. He knelt down slowly, but in the middle of the process, he resisted the urge. What did you do to me? Saras looked ugly, staring at the King of Knights with gnashing teeth. Seeing this, the King of Knights raised his eyebrows. Can you still resist? The willpower is pretty good. The awakened Knight of the Round Table is the sword of the king, and its ability is very simple and straightforward. That is, the person who has been killed will be tortured by the sins he has committed. The deeper the sins, the more the torture will be strong, thus kneeling down to King Neo and repenting. Even, under the order of King Ren, sinners can take up their swords and slaughter themselves. Similar to Zanpakudo such as Nibuta and Essence Shueyu, they are all ghosts, and their abilities are very strange. Of course, this ability is not without solution, and there are only 3 ways to crack it. First, if you don't get hit, it won't work. Second, holding the hilt of the Knights of the Round Table is not restricted by ability. Third, with an extremely tenacious will, after self-loathing and endless questioning, he can still implement his will. The third method is the most difficult. Anyway, the King of Knights does not think that anyone can achieve this level. Even Aizen and Yamamoto Yuanyujai may be shaken deep in their hearts. Seeing that this broken face was still slightly able to resist, the King of Knights immediately stepped forward, neither hurried nor slow. How much sin you have committed in the past, how much pain you will suffer now, the so-called sword of the king, that's what it is. There is no point in resisting. Saras was trembling all over, still resisting the torture in his heart. Seeing that the King of Knights kept approaching, he immediately wanted to quickly distance himself. However, in this state, his various reaction speeds were greatly weakened, and his actions were very poor. Damn! Saras, face twisted, his right hand grabbed his Zanpakudo, and he immediately shouted, "Don't be complacent, God of Death. Devour it, flaming centipede." Boom! A spiritual pressure rose into the sky, and a gust of wind swept away. In an instant, many people with inspiration in Naruto City noticed this change. The lavender Reiatsu was like a pillar of fire rising from the sky, and at the center, Sera's appearance was rapidly changing. Its body size has grown from the size of an ordinary human to a body comparable to a high-rise building, 200 or 300 meters long. Vivi stands up, a pair of eyes on its head, a pair of murderous eyes, a pair of long beards, which are even more like flames, spread out to the sides. Go to hell, fire poison. Seras opened his mouth sharply, spewing poisonous mist. The flames mixed with poisonous gas, turned into purple poisonous fire, and rushed towards the King of Knights suddenly. Seeing this, the King of Knights calmly analyzed. I am afraid it's a neurotoxin, and it also has the function of flame. It's over if you touch it. I have to say that the A4 level is still quite strong. If you encounter other captains, it is hard to say whether you will win or lose. Unfortunately, met me. With a chuckle, the King of Knights was slow, holding the Sword of Oath of Victory in his left hand, and simply moved forward. Unlike the past, the present Sword of Oath Victory has a scabbard on the outside. This is the power unlocked by 4 stars, known as the Distant Ideal Land. With the scabbard unfolded, even Gilgamesh's deviant sword, which is enough to destroy the world, cannot cause damage to the holder. It is an X-rank noble phantasm, and it is magic itself. I saw the huge centipede spew purple poisonous fire, swallowing the King of Knights all at once. Seeing this scene, Seras immediately laughed wildly. Ha ha ha, mere god of death, die for me. Under my flame and poison, it festered into ashes. He laughed very relieved, but the next second, his smile stiffened on his face. Puff! A blade with golden light pierced through the centipede's head from behind. Impossible. Seras widened his eyes, rolled his eyes, looked at the King of Knights out of the corner of his eye, and said, "When did you dodge?" I didn't dodge, it's just that your poisonous fire can't hurt me. King of Knights said calmly, "This is the second sword, you should almost kneel down." Saying that, he slowly drew out the blade. At the same time, Seras's body twisted, and the whole person was enveloped in endless guilt. He seemed to see countless wrong souls, and the thousands of wrong souls he killed were floating around him, seeking revenge on him. No. Boom. The huge body fell to the ground, crawling on the ground. Seras's eyes were scattered and gradually became empty. Repent, broken face. The King of Knights threw a knife and put the blade back into its sheath. However, it's too disappointing that you are the first order broken face. Your Aizen Sama, is there something more advanced? Broken face. Hearing that, the head of the huge centipede that fell to the ground suddenly swelled a dozen times. Pain-suffering Aizen sir. Boom. With a loud bang, Seras' huge body suddenly exploded. Chapter 0522 Your betrayal is suicide. Boom. In the huge explosion sound, the flaming centipede of Seras exploded in an instant, and its poison and flames spread in all directions at once. The King of Knights stood up in the sky, looking at this scene calmly. Blow yourself up. Is the face so loyal? Or, what did Aizen do on this broken face? This point, the King of Knights is not easy to guess. Of course, the latter is more likely. Such things as broken face, allegiance to Aizen, that is yielding to power, not many will serve Aizen from the heart. It's very troublesome to let this poisonous fire spread. Thinking of this, he looked sideways not far away. Nailu was fighting against the other side, and from the perspective of the scene, it was a hanging fight. Nailu is a Vastord class face, and its opponent seems to be only Killian, maybe a special Killian, but no matter how special, there is a gap of 2 levels between the two. While the King of Knights was observing the opponent, the broken face named Marquez also sensed his partner's self-destruction. HMPH, it's nice to say, but it turns out to die faster. He sneered inwardly and immediately turned to flee. Goodbye, woman, this uncle is devouring you next time. He wasn't stupid. After playing for a while, he found out that Nailu was much stronger than he looked, and he was not an opponent at all, so he immediately chose to run away. Seeing this, Nailu hesitated for a while. Instead of chasing after him, Vivi frowned at the spreading poisonous fire. "The god of death over there. Are you calling me?" The King of Knights raised his eyebrows. "Can you dispel these things?" "No." King of Knights replied decisively. "It's you. You are obviously a faceless person, but you are still worried about the comfort of human beings. However, there is nothing wrong with you being a faceless person. As a god of death, I have to save you." Hearing this, Nailu shook her head. A rational person must have a corresponding reason when fighting. "I have no reason to fight you, I just want to find another Aizen-sama." Saying that, she took a deep look at the poisonous fire spreading in the city, and finally chose to leave. The direction in which she left was the direction in which Marquez fled before. The King of Knights watched her disappear from sight, and shook his head helplessly. "Go find another Aizen, I'm afraid she will die." However, he has a backhand in this matter, which is not a cause for concern. Thinking of this, he slowly lowered his body and landed in the center of the fire poison. This should be Aizen's method, releasing poisonous fire, killing countless mortals, then collecting souls. What to do? This is just a guess, but with his knowledge of Aizen, 9 times out of 10, he can't be wrong. "I didn't expect to use another Bankai so soon." The King of Knights let out a light breath, slowly drew out the Zanpakuto, and threw it out. A ding sound, the Zanpakuto plunged into the ground. The next moment, he whispered in his mouth, "Bankai 12 Knights of the Round Table. Knights of Sacrifice." Boom! In the golden aura of the sky, Zanpakuto transformed into a knight in going armor. Immediately afterwards, the golden light diffused, forming a golden sphere of light, blocking it. At the same time, in Naruki City, Chuhara Tuchome, in a private hospital. In the research room, there are 6 huge screens that broadcast the wars that took place all over Naruto City. A4 is dead. Ichimaru Jin looked at the 3rd screen and said, "This experiment failed." "No, it worked." Aizen sat in front of the monitor, Vivi Isho, and said, "Silver, the broken face of A4 was originally manufactured for a self-destruction at the time of death. His poisonous fire can erode spiritual power. A-level broken face, each head has a special power, and the purpose of Aizen's manufacture is very clear, that is, to extremely strengthen an ability." "Really?" Ichimaru Jin pointed to the first screen and said, "As for A1, things seem to be going well." On the first big screen, the scenery presented is not the real world, but an imaginary circle. Aizen's expression was flat, and he whispered softly, "I don't know, how will the other me react?" The virtual circle is the boundary between the inner circle and the outer circle. This place is far away from Zai Palace, a deserted place. At this time, there was a broken face, walking out of the black cavity, towards the direction of Zai Palace. His appearance is that of a middle-aged man, and the virtual mask only has a mouth, which shows the high degree of its broken face. And above his shoulder, there is a small broken face the size of a slap, like a sticky old body. "Master Carmen, since we have returned to the virtual circle, there is no need for us to listen to Master Aizen's orders," the slap-sized little face muttered. "It is very dangerous to approach the Zai Palace, and another Master Aizen will kill us." Quote, "I know." The broken face of A1, known as Carmen, was calm and hoarse, "But if we don't do it, we will die. Ah, here we come." As he said that, he suddenly raised his head and saw that in front of him, there were 4 broken faces slowly approaching. These 4 broken faces are the 10 blades of Zai Palace. The 5th 10th blade, Nutra. The 7th 10th blade, Zamali Lulu. The 8th 10th blade, Asa Apollo Glands. The 9th 10th blade, Aronio Alluriali. "The first time we met, I'm the A1 level face of the face-breaking army, Carmen." Carmen stood still and looked directly at the 4 of them. "You 4, haven't you been exposed?" "Humph." Nutra snorted coldly and said, "I've had enough. This action is to take advantage of Aizen's dormancy time. Hurry up and leave." It's a pity, my laboratory. Asa Apollo shook his head and sighed, that's all precious experimental materials. However, that Aizen doesn't seem to like my research very much. The 9th 10 blade is a long mask with 8 holes, and the voice is extremely ugly. Let's go quickly, the rest of the 10 blade are going to hunt Daxu. Today is the time to turn in 100 Daxu, if you don't leave, we'll find out soon. Aizen's rule was to turn in 100 daggers every week, and today was the deadline, so all 10 blades were dispatched. It is precisely because of this that they will act, otherwise they will definitely be discovered. Then let's go. Carmen nodded, and immediately tore the space and opened a black cavity. However, at the moment when several people were about to step into the black cavity, in the sky, an azure phantom flash suddenly shot into the sky. Several people are top-level broken faces, and they have already noticed it at the moment when the virtual flash falls, and then quickly spread out in all directions. Noi 4.3 Terra looked up and saw an expressionless man standing in the sky above the sky, holding out a finger. Ulquiorra. Where are you going? Ulquiorra said indifferently, there are still 3 hours before the time limit for handing in the 100 heads Daxu. If it is not completed within the time limit, Aizen-sama will be angry. Humph. Nutra curled her lips in disdain. Lord Aizen, I'm so annoying. Ulquiorra, you idiot, the one you're working for, Aizen-sama, is not someone you know. That Aizen, I'm not interested in playing with him. Is that what betrayal means? Ulquiorra still didn't show any change in expression, but slowly pulled out the blade. Your betrayal is to seek death, all of which are within the expectations of Aizen-sama. Block it, black-winged demon. Boom. In an instant, a heavy rain-like spiritual pressure enveloped this space. Chapter 0523_2 Stage Return. Block it, black-winged demon. At the same time as the liberation speech sounded, suddenly, a heavy spiritual pressure like a torrential rain enveloped the space. Black spiritual pressure raindrops spread over this desert, alarming everything around. A pair of black wings wide enough to cover the sky, Ulquiorra was dressed in a white one-piece robe, his nails turned into long claws, and a pair of long horns grew out of a bone helmet on top of his head. Bankai, the god of death, the broken-faced Quiron as the liberation of nuclear power, the liberation of power, and the return to the original face of the virtual. And Ulquiorra's Guiron looks like a fallen angel, or a demon. Looking at Ulquiorra flying high in the sky, Nutra's face was extremely ugly. He stared at each other through gritted teeth and said word by word, you want to stop us? Ulquiorra. Block. Ulquiorra looked at the 5 people below calmly, flipped his right hand, held it in the void, and suddenly, a spear of spirit sun appeared in his hand. As I said, your betrayal is within the expectations of Aizen-sama. And the order given to me by Aizen-sama is annihilate the traitors. As soon as he finished speaking, he slowly raised the spirit spear in his hand. Don't struggle, don't resist, all your plans will be torn apart by me, the spear of thunder. Whoosh. The spear was thrown out, like a meteor from outside the sky, and suddenly fell to the place where the 5 were. You bastard. Nutra's face was gloomy. You alone, do you think you are our opponent? Boom. The long spear fell on the sand, causing a huge explosion in an instant. With the point of fall as the center, the sand on the entire earth was lifted up by this overwhelming force, like waves, heading in all directions. The power of this blow, just the gust of wind from the aftermath, wiped out all the sand and soil within a radius of several hundred meters. Damn. Sal Apollo cursed inwardly, and quickly retreated, avoiding the aftermath of the explosion. He raised his hand to block the sand and searched for a safe place. The first 40 blades are all of the Vastord class. I didn't expect the power to be so strong compared with the 50th blade, it is obviously one level higher. The 5th is Nutra. He is very clear about Nutra's strength and is definitely not Ulquiorra's opponent. In this sand city, Nutra, who was completely enraged, suddenly opened his mouth and spit out a long tongue. On the tip of his tongue, the dark red Reiatsu quickly gathered, and then suddenly shot at Ulquiorra in the sky. Wang Shu's flash. Because of the dust blocking, when Ulquiorra found out, the blow was very close. Immediately, he crossed his hands in front of his chest and directly took the virtual flash with his body. Boom! Amidst the roar, a thick cloud of smoke and dust appeared in the sky. Go! Neutra's clothes were tattered, and her skin was covered in wounds, which was obviously very uncomfortable. You! Tilda the thunder spear just now, he suffered the biggest attack Q-TQW. Go! Take advantage of the time when he was hit by the virtual flash. Neutra urged. However, before his words were finished, a figure flickered. He was shocked to find that his vision was deflected, and the whole world shifted a certain distance repeatedly. No, it's not the world that moves, it's his head. Ulquiorra squeezed his head with one hand and pressed it hard into the desert. You can't leave, Aizen-sama's order is absolute. Under the silent words, Ulquio stretched out a finger and touched Neutra's cheek. Wang Shu's EH. At the critical moment, Neutra's reaction was also extremely fast. He kicked Ulquiorra's chest and pushed it away, the huge sickle held in his right hand slammed out. Let's do it together and kill him in a minute. Pray, holy crying mantis. Boom. The spiritual pressure skyrocketed, and Neutra's form changed. He was like four-armed Ashura, with each arm holding a huge sickle. Although it is impossible to continue to evolve after eating the same kind of noodles, but I have never eaten Vastador's broken noodles. 70th Blade Zomari suddenly drew his blade. Peace, cursed Isenga. Seeing that he had also liberated Guiron, Sarapallo had to join the battle. Let's talk first, his body belongs to me. Drink it, evil concubine. No, I should be allowed to devour him. The 90th Blade Arenello sneered. Devouring everything, devouring the void. The four were liberated one after another, and in an instant, this space was distorted by such a huge spiritual pressure, as if it was unbearable, and it was about to shatter. Not far away, the A1 level broken Carmen hid far away, shook his head and looked at this scene. The 10-blade level deathmatch is indeed much stronger than ours. Even the space of the virtual circle is distorted. Sir Carmen, you are joking. The jelly-shaped face on his shoulders sneered. After you are liberated, you can solve one or two of them, no problem at all. In this regard, Carmen was obviously not in the mood to take care of it. He stood a few hundred meters away and calmly watched the confrontation between the two sides. However, with 1 against 4, even Vastord will have a hard time winning. He thought to himself. Seeing the liberation of the four, Ulquiorra immediately flew high into the sky. What, do you want to run? Neutra sneered. It's too late, since you brought it to the door yourself, don't try to run. Saying that, he jumped and rushed towards Ulquiorra. Stupid people. Ulquiorra's eyes were indifferent, and he said without emotion, the reason for the distance is to give you a time to prepare. Since you are going to resist desperately, let you see what is true despair and what despair should have. Gesture. As soon as the voice fell, his spiritual pressure, which had reached its peak, was once again improved. The black spiritual rain that was like a torrential rain was now as thick as a swamp. What? Arenello said in shock. Can your power continue to rise? Second stage returning blade. Zai Palace, the depths of the palace. Wanshan Lan Ran was sitting on the throne. At this moment, the sound of footsteps came, and he slowly opened his eyes. Tia. Halibal walked to the throne, immediately knelt down on one knee, and said, Yes, Aizen-sama. What's the matter? This week's Daxu has been arrested. However, something went wrong. There is. Without waiting for her report, Wanshan Aizen spoke first. Neutra and his 790s escaped, right? Yes, judging from the Reiatsu from the south of the Void Knight Palace, Ulquiorra is currently pursuing him. Halibal said solemnly, Lord Aizen, do you need your subordinates to go? Well, with Ulquiorra's strength, there is no problem with a pair of 2, but a pair of 4, I'm afraid it will be lost. Wanshan Lanran touched Benyu on his chest. and immediately got up with a smile. Just right, the first stage of fusion has been completed. Tia, come with me. Yes, Aizen-sama. Hannibal got up immediately, ready to follow Aizen. However, as soon as she looked at Aizen, Vivi froze. I saw that the Zanpakuto in Aizen's hand was gradually disappearing like a piece of paper being burned. This Aizen-sama. Are you surprised? Genshin Aizen's tone was calm, looking at his Zanpakuto and disappearing from his hand. It's nothing to be surprised. It's just Bengyu's judgment that my strength no longer needs the form of a blade. Let's go, Tia. With that said, he should walk out of the palace first. Hannibal, who followed behind him, was extremely shocked. Compared with the blue dye of the past few days, the current blue dye is simply nothing. He clearly followed behind him, but he couldn't feel the existence of any Reiatsu, and even his own breath as a god of death had disappeared. If she closed her eyes, she couldn't even notice that there was someone at such a close distance. Aizen-sama has entered a new realm. She secretly said in her heart. It's not a god of death, it's not a ghost, it's a higher-level soul that transcends the two. Chapter 0524 Your ability, who gave it? Second stage returning blade. Sao Paulo's expression shook, and he looked up at the sky, Ulquiorra's changing posture, and his heart was extremely shocked. Compared with the previous form of returning to the blade, at the moment Ulquiorra, the upper part of the clothes disappeared, the black ink flowed from the eyes, the lower part of the tear marks were too, and the whites of the eyes turned green. The abdomen to the legs, as well as the arms and back are covered with black feathers, the lower part of the robe is split in half, and the wings are fully spread to reveal bat-like claws. Of course, the most conspicuous is a long and slender tail, and the black setu case flowing out of the virtual hole in front of Shang. This gesture, which even Aizen-sama has never seen before, is similar to Benkai, the god of death. It is the second stage of liberation of the sword. Ulquiorra looked indifferent, looked at Nutra, who was rushing towards him, and slowly extended a finger. Black void flash. The dark-colored spiritual pressure gathered at the fingertips, like a cross star, expanding rapidly, and finally turned into a shock, which was shot suddenly. The filling speed of this virtual flash is extremely fast, which is more than half the preparation time of the general virtual flash. Not only that, its range and power are several times that of Wang Shu's flash. What bastard is the second stage return to the blade? I am the strongest. In Nutra's pupils, there was a flash of blackness, and he jumped up and rushed towards Ulquiorra. He was locked at the moment, and there was no time to avoid it. In the roar, he wielded a huge sickle and slashed at the incoming black phantom. However, his attack, cut in the black virtual flash, seemed to fall into the quagmire, and it was difficult to cut the black virtual flash. Its huge energy turned into a torrent, swallowing it all at once. Boom! The torrent of pitch-black spiritual power knocked it down at once, and slammed it into the ground. With a huge explosion, the entire sand was punched into a huge deep pit with a diameter of 100 meters. Having suffered this blow from the front, the horn of the crescent moon above Nutra's head has turned into a fly, and the blindfold of the left eye has disappeared, revealing a hollow eye. The whole body was covered with trauma, the breathing became disordered, and the body Vivi trembled. Bastard, asshole! With dark eyes, he half-kneeled in the deep pit, snorted, and spat out the bruises in his mouth, super speed regeneration. The golden spiritual pressure enveloped his body, and the next moment, the injuries he suffered all over his body recovered quickly at a speed visible to the naked eye. It's useless, Nutra. The 7th 10-blade Zomari sneered, with your slow speed, you can't even get close to him. Sure enough, I still need the fastest of the 10 blades to deal with him. Ring. The moment the voice fell, Zomali's figure had disappeared in place. Shan, is it the afterimage of the double ring? Yin-ji. Ulquiorra glanced at him and patted it with a paw. Bang oh. As soon as Zomali appeared, he saw a paw slapped, and his complexion changed slightly. It can keep up with my speed. He sneaked a sneak attack from behind and bypassed the dead end, but was still discovered by Ulquiorra. It can only be said that the other party's probing nerves were excellent. HMPH, in front of my abilities, no matter how fast your reaction is, it's useless. Zomali snorted coldly, and at the same time as he retreated, the two eyes in front of him suddenly opened, emitting a purple aura. Boom! The next moment, Ulquiorra discovered that a black sun pattern appeared on his right arm. Your arm is already under my control. Zomali sneered. Take advantage of it now, do it. Hearing this, Sal Apollo and Aronio attacked in unison, and the two of them simultaneously flashed and aimed at Ulquiorra in midair. Wang Shu's flash. Seeing this, Ulquiorra's expression was as usual, his right arm stretched out to his neck, as if he wanted to strangle himself. And at this critical moment, suddenly, a figure flashed in front of Ulquiorra. That is the phantom god Blue Dye. Lord Aizen. Ulquiorra's eyes widened. Before he could finish his words, two flashes of Wang Shu hit Aizen. No, to be precise, it was not a hit, but a twisting force that bounced off the two phantoms when it was close to 10 centimeters in front of Aizen's body. Boom, boom. The two phantom flashes that bounced off fell to other places, and in the sand, the sky was filled with dust. His hands in his pockets and looked at everyone calmly. Nutra, Sal Apollo, Zomari, Aronio, you are so disappointing to me. Disappointed. Stop laughing, Aizen. In the roar of anger, Nutra's figure suddenly appeared behind Aizen. He wielded a huge sickle, and suddenly slashed towards Aizen's head. The timing of this sneak attack was extremely clever. The shot was taken at the moment when the virtual flash was bounced, and the attack was at the moment when Aizen was distracted. Nutra is extremely confident. Even if it is Aizen, it is difficult to dodge this time. However, his expression quickly solidified, gradually turning into shock, horror, and fear. In the face of his sneak attack, Aizen didn't move at all and let the sickle slash away. His sickle swept across Aizen's head. No, as it approached his body, there seemed to be a layer of invisible force swept across it, and his sickle from the tip of it suddenly turned into powder and disappeared. It all happened so fast that everyone could barely see a trace of it. After the scythe swept through, Aizen was safe and sound, but the weapon itself had turned into crystal powder and was scattered in the air. Impossible. Nutra paled in horror. What did you do? He roared loudly, and at the same time fled quickly, not daring to entangle at all. It's nothing, it's just your weapon. I can't even bear the reiatsu that I naturally leaked out. Aizen chuckled and said, just like a marshmallow, it will melt when it falls into the water. For me, your weapon is that marshmallow. Monster. A few broken faces were terrified, and immediately gave up the meaning of confrontation, turned around in unison, tore the space, and escaped into the black cavity. However, they had just sneaked into the black cavity, and in front of the dark space, Aizen's figure had already appeared first. Where are you going? Hearing this, Sal Apollo's heart skipped a beat, and his heart was extremely shocked. So fast. When will he be able to tear apart the black cavity? It's impossible. He is the god of death. It's impossible to tear the black cavity apart. This must be an illusion of Jinghua Shuiyu. As if seeing what he was thinking, Aizen chuckled twice. Do you think it's a mirror? It's not, Sal Apollo. When did you have the illusion that I need to use the mirror on you? Hearing this, Zomari's face twisted and he roared angrily. Accept my love, Aizen. In the roar of anger, the countless eyes of his body opened all at once, emitting purple aura. One after another, dark sun patterns shot towards Aizen quickly. Zomali, who do you think gave you your ability? Aizen narrowed his eyes and flicked his fingers. Whoosh! An invisible reiatsu bullet shot out quickly. With a puff, Zomari's eyes widened, looking at his own chest in disbelief. There, a huge hole appeared in his bore. Chapter 0525-Suppress Traitors. Zomari Vivi lowered his head and looked at his chest, where a huge hole appeared, as if an artificial hole had been created. Immediately, his spiritual pressure was unstable, the pedal made by the spiritual child under his feet shattered, and his figure was like a bird, falling toward the endless darkness. This is a black cavity. Once it falls, it will be lost forever in this infinite space. Aizen watched Zamali gradually disappear, and couldn't help shaking his head. Of course, if you are lucky, you can meet it. Gu, the premise is that you can survive. If the world, the virtual circle, and the corpse soul world are compared to a box, then all the dark spaces between these three boxes are black cavities. And in this infinite darkness, there are large and small gathering places of fallen souls called Yugu. The soul lost in the black cavity luckily meets Yugu, and still has a chance to live, but unlucky, it will be lost forever. Until death, the soul turns into a pure spiritual child, floating in this infinite space. Thinking of this, Hanshin Aizen immediately looked at the other three and said, I had expected your betrayal. Not only you, but even the third 10th blade, the 6th 10th blade, and the second 10th 187th blade, I wouldn't be surprised if they betrayed. Having said this, he paused and smiled again. For those who betray you, you must be punished. Wait, Aizen-sama. Sarapallo hurriedly said, I was just temporarily bewitched. Is it useful to beg for mercy now? Nutra snorted coldly. Fight, either kill the enemy or be killed by the enemy, just let me enjoy the battle, Aizen. He holds a scythe in his forearms, but at this moment he has given up his own weapon. His four palms are touching the top of his head, and a golden spiritual pressure is rapidly gathering in between. Suddenly, a huge golden sun formed above his head and expanded extremely rapidly. Huh. Seeing this, Aizen raised her eyebrows, and said with a little surprise, shrink the power of the virtual flash, no longer shoot light, but shoot it in the form of a ball. By doing this, you can maximize the power, the lethality that comes out, and the lethality it produces, must be on top of Wang Shu's flash. As soon as he finished speaking, Nutra roared and threw the huge golden ball out. Super Void. He. Aizen said with a faint isho, I don't remember, I taught you such an immature move. Look at it, this is a super virtual bullet. Between the words, he stretched out a finger, and the light blue Reiki on the fingertips converged, instantly forming a palm-sized Reiki ball. Go. With a wave of Aizen's finger, the blue virtual bullet was ejected. The moment it flew out, it immediately swelled, instantly turning into an incomparably huge sun, 5 times the size of the super void bullet used by Nutra. What? Nutra's eyes widened, full of mighty expression. How could you? This is a new move that he secretly researched. Apart from him, the other 10 blades can't do it at all, but what is Aizen? 2 super virtual bullets collided in the black cavity, and in just an instant, the golden ball was immediately crushed, like a small glass ball, crushed to powder. Then, the huge blue virtual bullet, which was as dazzling as the sun, landed on Nutra's head, and exploded under the rays of light. Boom! In the deafening roar, Nutra maintained a sluggish look, and the whole person was smashed to ashes by one blow. And this black cavity space is also distorted because of the excessive energy. Just like a dark curtain, a gray shadow appears. Beyond this gray shadow, is the turbulent flow of time and space. Too strong is this the power of Aizen. Sarapallo was in a trance, and he escaped a great distance to avoid being affected by the explosion. As for the other, Aronio, he was not as lucky as he was. At this moment, half of his body was blown away, and only his head remained. Aizen-sama, please circle me once. With only his brain left, Aronio shouted frantically. Hanshin Lanran looked at it calmly, shook his head and said, Super Void, this move can even distort the black cavity. It is easy to break the wall of the world, and be involved in the turbulent flow of time and space. The reason why I don't tell you is because you Achuka's class broken faces can't handle it. Pause, he added. I taught Ulquiorra this trick. If he uses it, the 4 of you will also die. But you didn't die. Obviously, he was waiting for you to give up your resistance and give it to you. Last chance. You didn't take it. a thud, and said with trembling, "Lord Eisen, I am willing to be loyal to you for the rest of my life. Please forgive me this time. Lord Eisen." "It's too late, Thrall Apollo. For a 10-blade like yours, there are substitutes at any time." Wanchen Eisen walked over, and, spiritual pressure, began to appear all over his body. This force, shrouded in Tsar Apollo's head, suppressed his actions, making it difficult to even lift his head. As Eisen approached, Tsar Apollo was unable to make a sound, and his soul began to shake and gradually collapse. "It's just Reiatsu, damn it!" he roared wildly in his heart, and finally passed out under this heavy spiritual pressure. At the same time, the virtual circle. Ulquiorra flew in midair, staring blankly at the two broken faces below. At this time, a figure flew in the distance. It was Hannibal. "Where's Eisen-sama?" "In the black chamber." Ulquiorra said softly, broken down at both ends. "Give up the fearless resistance, and wait for Eisen-sama to deal with it." Hearing this, Carmen scratched his head and said helplessly, "I knew that the task would not be so easy, otherwise I would not be allowed to come." "Lord Carmen," the jelly-like face on his shoulders shivered, "let's run." Carmen nodded, looked at Ulquiorra, and said, "You are the 40th blade. Since you have this level of power, why should you be loyal to that? Eisen, you should know, what you have the loyal, Eisen, is not the former, Eisen." "Stupid question." Ulquiorra stared at each other. "There is only one reason why you are loyal to Eisen-sama. It is my honor to do things for Eisen-sama. The weak follow the strong. Not to mention false, even in human society, this is an eternal truth. Of course, in human society, that is called leadership." "Really?" Carmen was speechless, and immediately whispered, "It flashed." "Yes." The jelly-like broken surface immediately began to expand, covering Carmen at once. The next moment, the two began to collapse, quickly reduced to a point, and finally disappeared. This change is extremely fast, less than a second before and after. "We'll be back, ask your Eisen-sama, for me, I'm the A1 level Bromian of the Broken Army, Carmen." Chapter 0526_Angels Come. 1. "We'll be back, say hello to your Eisen-sama, for me, I'm the A1 level Bromian of the Broken Army Carmen." Accompanied by a hoarse voice, Carmen and the jelly-like broken face on his shoulder collapsed into a tiny dot, and finally disappeared. It all changed so fast that by the time Ulquiorra tried to stop it, it was too late. "Escaped." He stared at the disappearing place and murmured in a low voice, "Isn't it tearing the black cavity to escape? Is it space shuttle?" "Not space shuttle, Ulquiorra." Suddenly, a peaceful voice sounded, and in the black cavity that had been torn before, I saw the phantom body blue die stepping out. He was holding Sal Apollo in his left hand and a long glass jar in his right hand. Inside the jar were two round heads, which were the body of Aronio. "The space shuttle will leave traces. The escape method of the broken face just now should be similar to the power of summoning." "Summon." Ulquiorra was stunned, apparently not understanding the meaning. However, he didn't think too much, and immediately released the return blade and respectfully came to Eisen. "I'm very sorry, Lord Eisen, for letting him escape." "Irrelevant ants, let him go." Wanchen Eisen calmly dropped what was in his hand. "Take Tsar Apollo back to the Void Knight Palace and tie it in the most conspicuous place. This is to show the public, to kill chickens to warn the monkeys." Ulquiorra nodded and did so immediately. "As for you," Wanchen Eisen lowered his eyes and looked at the glass jar in his hand, "how do you want to die?" "Lord Blue, Eisen-sama." Aranello hurriedly said, "I am your most loyal servant." He. Eisen chuckled twice, her eyes indifferent. "I won't let you die for the time being. You are the only Killian-level broken face among the 10 blades. You have special abilities, and you need to be used as experimental material." Experimental material. Aranello's two little heads trembled, but he didn't dare to resist. "Yes, I am Aizen-sama's experimental material, I will definitely cooperate with you. Let's go. Wanshan Lanran was too lazy to deal with it, and threw it to Halibal, saying, return to the Void Night Palace, gather all the broken faces, 10 blades, it's time to rectify it. Yes, Aizen-sama. In the present world, Naruto City. The commotion caused by the Broken Face Legion continued. Tens of thousands of human beings were killed and their souls were extracted. So many souls have even attracted the Daxu in the virtual circle. There are more than a dozen Daxu, comparable to the huge Killian of high-rise buildings, tearing the space. It's really troublesome, with such a big commotion. Didn't the Soul Society send some reinforcements? Within the golden light field, the King of Knights looked up at the sky. The great void ripped apart the sky, and thousands of void were gushing out. I can't kill it alone. The King of Knights shook his head, reached out and patted the shoulder of the golden armored knight. Immediately, the knight gradually shrank and changed back to Zanpakugo, and as he disappeared, the golden field quickly faded away. Disappearing together, there is also the poisonous fire caused by the previous A4 level self-destruction. Cleaning up these poisonous fires wasted a lot of time, and thanks to me, there is no way for others. The King of Knights reluctantly slandered that he became the captain, not to be a thug for Seo Lingting. How could he have such a leisurely heart? He just wanted to use the environment of the Soul Realm to cultivate to 5 stars. I don't care what Aizen wants to do. Find a place to watch the show. Someone will come to clean up the mess anyway. Thinking of this, the King of Knights immediately flew up, found the tallest building, and descended. At the same time, in Naruto City, many people acted because of the chaos. Urahara Kazuki, Masked Core, Kurosaki Ichigo, Kurosaki Isshin, Ishida Yuryu, Ishida Ryuzan, Chato Taito, Inoue Orihime and the Execution Department of the Psychic Group. Narugi City, Chuhara Tuchome, a research room of a hospital. Ichimaru Jin said with a smile. It failed, they found out. It seems that the 410 blade are more evil than good. Failure. Aizen didn't feel annoyed at all, but smiled. Silver, first of all, let's talk about the degree of failure. I didn't expect the fighting power of those 10 blades at first, and the purpose was to weaken the power of the Void Night Palace. Now, we have cut 4 heads and 10 blades without breaking a sweat, which is not a failure. Quote. In terms of weakening the Void Night Palace, it was quite successful. However, whether it is this Aizen or the Phantom Body Aizen, they don't really care about 10 blades, they're just cannon fodder. At this moment, in the room, the airborne suddenly shattered, and then a jelly-like substance overflowed from the shattered place. These viscous things, after flowing out, quickly turned into the appearance of Carmen. Aizen-sama, I'm very sorry, I missed the mission. Huh. Before the words were finished, Carmen was suddenly taken aback, turned sharply, and looked at the door. Boom. With a muffled sound, the door was smashed, and a woman with long lake green hair came in. What an unexpected guest. Lan Ran was sitting in the swivel chair, slowly turning around, looking at Nailu, and said with a smile, the original 30 blade, Nilia, long time no see. Aizen sir. Nailu was stunned, full of surprise. Lord Chindi is right, there really is a second Lord Aizen. Chin Emperor. Aizen frowned, very sensitive to this name. He is not afraid of Lan Ran in Zai Palace, but he is very afraid of the mysterious person Chin Emperor. The Nailu in front of her has not only recovered from her injuries, regained her strength, but also knew Emperor Chin. This made Aizen suddenly alert. Just heard Nailu continue to say, I sensed a hint of Reiatsu, so I came to see, but I didn't expect Lord Aizen to be here. What the hell is going on? Why are there 2 Lord Aizen? Nelly L. Aizen got up, approached slowly, and walked all the way to Nailu before she stopped. You must be very doubtful in your heart. About this issue, the person from Zai Palace should know better than me. Aizen-sama. Nailu opened her mouth and shook her head again and again. Spiritual pressure, breath, exactly the same. Suddenly, She widened her eyes and bowed her head in surprise. A sharp blade pierced through her waist. "Aizen, sir," Nailu said blankly. "It's a pity, Nellie, I don't need your power anymore." Lan Ran said calmly. "You were assigned by that Lan Ran, right? What is the purpose? How did you know about Emperor Qin?" "Of course, all this is not important. As the eliminated 10 blades, you have no use. He just sent someone on the front foot to the virtual circle to destroy it, and there are 10 blades in the virtual circle running here on the back foot. To say that there is no purpose, Aizen would not believe it. No matter what, it's just a broken face. In the past, it was more straightforward to kill directly. However, Nailu, who was pierced by a single blow, had a sacred radiance rising into the sky from within her chest. The roof was suddenly broken, and the huge power of the holy light gathered into clouds. Inside, the phantom of the holy archangel is emerging. "What?" Aizen narrowed her eyes. "I am the holy archangel." The next moment, the word of God sounded. Chapter 0527-Angels Come. 2. I am the holy archangel. The holy light is like a cloud, and the divine radiance illuminates the earth. Above the broken roof of the research room, the power of holy light gathered, and an angel phantom was slowly condensing. The angel has 10 wings on its back, exuding a sacred and flawless breath, as if it is the most perfect creature in the world, pure and unsullied, transparent and clear. The power of holy light circulated all over his body, and his 10 wings were wide open. Under this holy light, A1-level broken-faced Carmen only felt that he was exposed to the scorching sun, and the spiritual power of the whole person was rapidly draining. "Angel, what kind of power is this?" He was shocked and raised his hand to resist the attack of the power of the holy light. As if he were dirt and the holy light was what purifies dirt. Not only him, but the movement caused by the arrival of the angel can be felt throughout Naruto City. The shadow of the angel projected on the sky, whether it is a human being, or a person with virtual, death, and psychic abilities, can be clearly seen. Angel. The 10-winged angel, what's going on? Did Aizen make it? Angel's light has a strong lethal power to Shu and Bromian. From the gaps in the space torn by the Great Void, thousands of voids ran out, and in front of the power of holy light, hundreds of them were purified in an instant. This is not the transcendence of the god of death, but it is clean and neat, and the void is obliterated from the soul level. That direction is the hospital. Chuhara Tuchome, on the roof of a nearby building, Ishida Yulong stared in the direction of the archangel and murmured in a low voice. "It turns out to be an angel. Is there a god in this world?" Angels, the messengers of the sky, or the messengers of God, angels have all appeared, and the existence of God is also imaginative. It does not refer to the god of death. Although the god of death is also called a god, it is only a self-proclaimed name. God does not exist. Suddenly, behind Ishida Yulong, a mature male voice came. "Dragon string." Ishida Yulong looked back, but his face sank. "Is that what you call your father?" Ishida Longxian's face was calm, and he was used to the name of his son. "What are you doing?" Ishida Yulong was very cold. "Who do you think rescued you from the Black Dragon disaster?" Ishida Ryuji snorted. "A few days ago, the Black Dragon Deathwing appeared in Kakusa town and destroyed a city under the riot. At that time, Ishida Yulong was affected, but was rescued by Ishida Longxian. Also rescued were Ichigo Kurasaki's classmates, including Taito Chato and Orihime Inoue." "What's going on?" Ishida Yulong obviously didn't catch a cold and changed the subject. "Can't you see it?" Ishida Longxian Vivi raised his head and looked at the phantom of the angel in the sky. "I am a holy archangel." "Oh, the nature of this power is similar to our Quincy, but it is more advanced than the Quincy interesting existence." "We are a Quincy." Ishida Yulong Vivi stared. "Didn't you give up your identity as a Quincy long ago? Even now, you still call yourself a Quincy?" For such an unceremonious question, Ishida Longxian was only silent for a moment. "What I gave up was my identity. I don't remember when I gave up the power of a quencher. After a pause, he said again, Yulong, if you want to become stronger, you can get close to that angel. This kind of holy light is poison to the void, but a tonic to you. Meanwhile, in the research room of the hospital, Ichimaru-jin and Aizen looked up at the archangel. Their expressions were a bit solemn. Obviously, this scene far exceeded expectations. Holy Archangel. Lan Ran's eyes drooped slightly, and she said softly, What are you? Lurking in her body. He suspected that it was another Aizen's hands and feet. According to the analysis of the power radiated by this angel, it is similar to Quincy, but more advanced. Perhaps, another him, has gone beyond the two major fields of death and emptiness, and then studied the Quincy, and created such a thing now. Of course, this is just speculation, and it is more likely that this holy archangel has something to do with dreams. In this regard, the archangel obviously ignored it, and looked at Nailu, who was half squatting. Being pierced by Aizen's sword, Nailu's life breath is draining. Holy healing. The archangel whispered softly, and waved out a power of holy light. Whoosh. Divine brilliance instantly shrouded Nailu's body. Immediately, her wounds recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just a few seconds, everything was restored to its original state. Ichimaru-jin was stunned for a moment, then secretly said in his heart, This kind of light is very restrained against Shu, as can be seen from the situation of A1. But it did no harm to Nellie, but healed her wounds. Although it is a power of the same type, it shows two diametrically opposite results, which not only makes Ichimaru-jin care very much, but even Aizen can't help be startled. Interesting ability. Aizen said in surprise, Angel, are you the one who broke the boundaries of the Quincy and was born? Just like the gods of death and emptiness, there are limits, so the Quincy master naturally has limits. However, the information about Quincy Master is relatively sparse, and Aizen doesn't know much. The Archangel said solemnly, This woman is our reserve member, Aizen Sosuke. You hurt her and you need to accept God's punishment. Between the words, his 10 wings instigated, the power of holy light became more and more intense, and above his head, a cloud of holy light was even born that enveloped the entire city. Holy Spear. Among the clouds, a silver spear condensed with divine power slowly showed its head. The next moment, it turned into a silver light and suddenly fell towards Aizen. It's just a phantom, where is your body? Aizen was not in a hurry, and did not move in the face of the flying spear. I saw the silver light falling, and at the moment when it hit Aizen, a thick spiritual pressure shield suddenly appeared in front of him. 1,000,000 shields. Self-defense technique. Ichimaru-jin narrowed his eyes and said inwardly, using the power of Bengyu, a wall of 1,000,000 spiritual pressures can be formed in an instant, which is enough to defend against the power of the number 100 ghost path. It is precisely because of this that unless Aizen takes the initiative to remove this ability, 1.5 or any sneak attack from a dead angle cannot break this shield. At this moment, the holy spear hit 1,000,000 tons. And the collision between the spear and the shield destroyed the entire hospital in an instant. The aftermath of the collision suddenly turned the 4 walls of the research room into dust, and before the aftermath was over, the entire hospital was collapsing rapidly. Seeing this, the Archangel was not surprised, he was too familiar with Aizen's power. 1,000,000 shields. If you want to defend against my holy light, hundreds of millions of shields are almost the same. Between the words, his right hand was raised high, and suddenly, the clouds of holy light above his head, silver spears appeared again. The guns of the stars. Whoosh whoosh. The silver spears that roared out, like stars falling from the sky, fell one after another. There are hundreds of them. Seeing this, Aizen's complexion changed greatly. Is this kind of power unlimited? Chapter 0528_Boundary of the Grim Reaper. The guns of the stars. Under the cloud of holy light, one after another holy spear stuck its head out, like a meteor shower coming from outside the sky, one after another falling towards Aizen Sosuke. Seeing this scene, Rao Shi had already begun to merge with Beng Yu's blue dye, and his face changed greatly. Can this kind of power be used indefinitely? In the murmur, Aizen quickly retreated, and at the same time chanted, "The proud son of the sky, the iron city wall, the dragon walks, the lion roars, the tiger roars, the wolf rushes, cut off the heaven and the earth before it collapses, the 81 way of binding the road. Break empty. Boom. A transcendent Reiatsu wall cuts off the sky. I saw the spears of the stars shot down on 1,000,000 shields one after another, and each one fell, and after the collision, an extremely powerful force erupted. Boom boom boom. After dozens of bombardments in a row, the million shields finally showed signs of shattering. The sound of ka-ka sounded, and finally with a bang, the million shields shattered, and then the spear remained, and then hit the wall of the sky. Can't stop. Aizen's eyes narrowed slightly. These attacks are endless, and we can only destroy the angel's phantom. Thinking of this, he took advantage of the moment when he broke the sky to block the spear of the stars, and immediately moved his body. And as he retreated, Duankong instantly collapsed, and dozens of star spears were shot down in the research room one after another. Boom. The whole earth was shaken, and an explosion resounded through the sky, spreading throughout the city. In the rest, before the explosion could be heard, a strong wind beyond the speed of sound had passed. The whistling wind and waves pushed everything within a kilometer radius. The Holy Archangel turned his eyes and looked forward. I saw a flash of figures in the air, and Aizen had already appeared here. He raised his head and glanced at the cloud of holy light above his head, and said slowly, "It doesn't seem to be used indefinitely. This cloud has doubled in size. Does that mean that when it runs out, the power is gone?" Quote. Correct judgment. That's right, the angel of the holy Tao didn't bother to lie, and said calmly, "This is just a phantom of mine, with limited power. It's you who is better than I expected, in such a short period of time, not only fusion of the two failed Bengyu, and fusion of the new Bengyu in my body. 1,000,000 shields is the power of collapsing jade, and this move, the phantom body blue dye, is very good in terms of defense. In addition, the characteristics of independent defense are worthy of praise." All wait. Aizen raised her eyebrows. "I see, you are a dreamer. Are you the master?" "I am the ruler of the sky." "Nellie L is just a bad face. When did she become your reserve member?" You. Aizen asked with interest. "Not in a hurry at all. Do you have no requirement for combat power to recruit members in your dream?" Mentioning compared to the Master of Dreams. It seems that you misunderstood something, but it doesn't matter, you don't need to know. The Holy Archangel looked flat and said, "Before the power of this phantom of mine is exhausted, you should work hard to save your life." He didn't plan to kill Aizen, and he couldn't. Even if the main body comes, the power of the 5-star Archangel can't kill Aizen, but defeating and sealing it can give it a try. Now the shot against Aizen is just to speed up the fusion of Bengyu. The current collapse jade is only the initial fusion of two failed products, the distance can be absorbed, and there is still a lack of heat. At this time, he had to use force to force the opponent. Fire of Faith. The Archangel turned his right hand and held it lightly. Immediately, the power of holy light condensed a sacred sword, and at the same time as the blade manifested, a ray of fire of faith suddenly wrapped around it. The next moment, he moved and approached rapidly. So fast. Aizen's pupils shrank, and even his probing ability failed to capture its movement trajectory. It's not a momentary step, it's not a ringing turn, it's simply fast and explosive. Thinking of this, Aizen immediately turned sideways, and at the same time quickly pulled out Jinghua Shuiyu, and raised his sword high. Boom! The moment the sword was blocked, the sacred sword slashed down. The eyes can't keep up with my speed, and the perception can't keep up, but they can react. Is it the power of Bengyu? The Archangel chuckled and forced Aizen back with a sword. Sword press. While being knocked back, Aizen immediately swung the blade. The spiritual pressure turned into a slash and flew out suddenly. In this regard, the Archangel Isho, his wings trembled behind him, and his speed suddenly exploded. In an instant, he had appeared behind Eisen. As a god of death, your speed is already very, very fast, but unfortunately, there is still a little distance from me. Between the words, the archangel stabbed straight with his sword, as if waiting for Eisen to take the initiative to ram his holy sword. Too fast. Does, Sky Master, mean this? Under this sky, there is no faster creature than him. Eisen was silent in her heart, and immediately slapped her left hand, and the dark spiritual pressure in her palm expanded rapidly, covering herself. The 90 of the broken Tao, the black coffin. Boom. A coffin of darkness enveloped the two at once, and in an instant, an extremely heavy pressure came from the feet of the archangel. Is this kind of thing trying to limit my speed? Don't be naive, Eisen. The archangel grinned. Isho immediately abandoned the holy sword, and shouted, God said, everything in the world, light will come. Whoa. White sprints into the black coffin space, dispelling all darkness. God said, gravity is not there, the world is upside down. As soon as the voice fell, the super-strong gravity born in the black coffin space turned into nothingness. Not only 897, but even the upper and lower structures of the sky and the earth also turned upside down. Huh. Lan Ran was stunned. He suddenly found that he had stood upside down at some point, with the sky under his feet and the earth above his head. The momentary stiffness and sluggishness made his reaction half a beat slower. It's a pity that I know all about your abilities, but you don't know anything about me. God's feather. The archangel's 10 wings were wide open, and a piece of wings exuded a sacred brilliance, and then turned into a flying knife and slammed out. Puff. Like an electric light, Feiyu pierced Eisen's forehead in an instant, leaving a clearly visible hole. Eisen's expression froze, her eyes widened, full of shock. The next moment, the black coffin space shook, fluctuated violently, and finally burst open with a bang. In the distance, Ichimaru Jin paid close attention to all of this. When the black coffin collapsed, he saw Eisen, who was pierced through his forehead with a single blow. Impossible, he blurted out. In such a short period of time, just a phantom can kill Eisen. He couldn't accept it. If it could be done so easily, he would have done it long ago. Who said he was dead? The archangel glanced at him, snorted coldly, and said, he is evolving to a higher level. Evolution, no, to be precise, is to break the limit of death. Chapter 0529-new no 8 Doflamingo. Collapsing jade represents the power of infinite evolution. Of course, infinite is just a modifier, it cannot be truly infinite. In the original work, Eisen merged with Benyu until he was defeated by Kurosaki Ichigo, and went through 5 stages before and after. Before, Eisen was only in the first stage. At this moment, after being punched through the head by the archangel, the power of Benyu was immediately passively stimulated and began to force Eisen to move towards a higher dimension. Boom. A huge amount of spiritual pressure overflowed from Eisen's body. These spiritual pressures seemed to be the substance, layers of white matter, constantly overflowing from the hole in the forehead, and quickly filled the wound. It's virtual power. The archangel watched with a cold eye, without any intention of stopping him, but observed calmly. For the god of death to break the boundaries, he must first create the power of void, and obtaining this power will also change the form of human beings. As if confirming his words, the evolving Eisen began to cover his entire body with the white real Reiatsu at the forehead. Start with the head, spread to the chest, limbs, and finally wrap it completely. This special white substance, like the pupa of an insect, dyes the whole person in blue, with only one pair of eyes exposed. The second stage, the incubation period. Suddenly, Eisen opened his eyes, and the whole person slowly twisted from the upside-down posture without any movement, breaking free from the turning of heaven and earth. Can you get rid of my divine language? The archangel raised his eyebrows. It seems that your power has surpassed mine. This is for sure. There is no very obvious strength gap between the 5-star archangel and Eisen. Before relying on a phantom, he was able to kill Aizen because the opponent had just merged with collapsing jade and could not use his own power as he wanted. Otherwise, this phantom would definitely not be Aizen's opponent. I want to thank you, Aizen said calmly. It's not that you consumed my strength. The progress of my fusion of Benyu will be delayed for at least 10 days. You, welcome. The Archangel lowered his eyes and grinned. This is the second stage, and you have already begun to swell. Aizen, if you call the realm beyond death and void a butterfly, then you are just a butterfly larva now. Just a cocoon. In the second stage of fusion, Aizen was unable to use Kyoka Suzuki's ability, but was still in the category of the god of death, but his spiritual pressure, speed, defense, and recovery were far stronger than his original self. It can be said that in the current Aizen, even if the Archangel used the Spear of the Stars, again, he would not be able to hurt him in the slightest. And hearing this, Aizen didn't have any anger, and seemed extremely calm. You're right, it's just a cocoon now, but, even so, it's enough to deal with you. No, it's better to say that you are a ghost, you have little power left, why don't you let your body come? I want to see the full strength of your Dominion class. He. The Archangel chuckled, Dominion level. You have already surpassed the Overlord level, and the Big Master can deal with you. Fortunately, the power of my phantom is about to be exhausted, so there will be a period in the future. Between the words, the search for the holy light above the sky quickly shrank and disappeared in the blink of an eye. As the holy light dissipated, the body of the Archangel quickly turned into photons. I am now equivalent to your great master, Aizen said in surprise, as that black dragon. Deathwing, ha, you are not afraid of death, you can step into the empty seat and try, and the black dragon will sleep in the river. The Archangel laughed, and his figure finally disappeared. Of course, this is just flickering. Deathwing is only 2-star, how could it possibly beat Aizen? However, if Aizen really steps into the empty town, he can immediately use the magic jade to upgrade the black dragon to a 4-star, or even a 5-star. Watching the Archangel disappear, Aizen didn't say anything, and finally just shook his head. The fusion of the second stage can deal with the master level. If you want to deal with the big master, I am afraid that you need the 5th stage, or even above. As for Emperor Qin, what kind of strength Qin Emperor is, he is completely incomprehensible and cannot guess at all. Therefore, after being silent for a while, Aizen resolutely confessed and did not go to Kakuza town to ask for trouble. Silver. Captain Aizen. Ichimaru Jin had a serpent-like smile on his face. Congratulations, you brought going to the second stage. This guy has been watching the play, no matter what happens, he will not shoot. Aizen glanced at him and said nothing, but said, clean up the mouse in Naruto City, and we can start planning. Inform all the face-breaking legions to attack the virtual circle before night falls. Yes, Captain Aizen. Ichimaru Jin narrowed his eyes and nodded immediately. At the same time, the virtual circle, the virtual night palace. In a hall that can accommodate thousands of people, hundreds of broken faces are gathering. Before so many broken faces, only the remaining 610 blades were standing in a row. 10th blade, Stark. The 20th blade, Balagang. The 30th blade, Hannibal. The 40th blade, Wolkiora. The 60th blade, Grimjow. 10th blade, Tooth Dance. In front of the 610 blade, a cross was erected, and the original 80 blade, Sar Apollo, was bound on it. Everyone can see the tragic state of Sar Apollo, some who sneer, some who sympathize, and some who disdain. At this moment, the sound of footsteps came. Everyone raised their heads and looked at the high platform, only to see Lanran walking slowly to the front of the throne and sitting down slowly. Welcome to Aizen-sama. In an instant, hundreds of broken faces knelt down. The war is imminent. Tonight, someone will attack the virtual circle in an attempt to snatch the virtual night palace. Aizen leaned on his head with one hand and said calmly, before the war, there were traitors inside the 10 blades, as you can see. Of the 10 blades and 10, 3 disappeared, and 1 was tied. Needless to say, everyone knew what happened. Let's not talk about the past. Eisenvivi Isho said, let's rectify the ranking of the 10 blades first and fill the vacancies. Pause, he continued. There are 4 vacant positions, no 5, number 7, number 8, and number 9. Hearing this, the many broken faces below changed their expressions one by one. 10 blades, except for Eisen, the highest-ranking group of people in Zai Palace. As long as they become 10 blades, they are under 1 person and above 10,000 people. Immediately, the broken faces who thought they had some strength were full of expectations. First of all, the new 50th blade, by Nellie L. Eisen spoke softly. The new 70th blade, Ruby. The new 9th blade, this new compatriot, come out. As soon as the voice fell, I saw a short boy strolling over on the high platform. The boy has short blonde hair, and the mask only has a piece on the top of his head. Who is this guy? Someone said dumbly. What a weak face. It's the first time I've seen such a weak face. Shish. This is 10 blades, Eisen-sama, kiss it. Speaking of which, did you miss one, the 80 blade? As if hearing this sentence, Eisenvivi Isho clapped his hands and said, then, the last 80 blade, introduce yourself. While talking, another person came. With a treacherous smile on the corner of his mouth, this man was more than 2 meters tall, walked 28 steps, and was wearing a feather coat. For good noon, fellow countrymen, I'm number 8, Heavenly Yaksha, Doflamingo. Chapter 0530_Eisen-sama, please. I'm number 8, Heavenly Yaksha, Doflamingo. The one who appeared on the high platform was Don Quixote Doflamingo from Pirate World, Chin Yang's number 1 dog, leg. This man is arrogant, cruel, indifferent, and will do anything to achieve his goals. After Dream left the world of pirates, in order to improve his power, he devoured the souls of countless pirates to strengthen his own power. Thanks to the high-quality soul, he has raised the virtual level to Washtad today. It is precisely because of this that Chin Yang will use the illusion and summon it to fill the missing position of the 10 blades. And the many broken faces below, when they saw Doflamingo, their eyes widened, showing incredible colors. No, impossible. This guy, with the body of a human, has obtained the power of emptiness. This guy is human. No, between human and virtual. The virtual enters the realm of the god of death, called Broken Face, and the god of death enters the realm of the virtual, called Mask. What is this guy? These rustling voices came into Doflamingo's ears, and he grinned immediately. Isho said, I don't understand what you are talking about. However, using your divisions, I should be Vastord. The superior is immoral. Numerous broken faces were shocked in their hearts, and suddenly fell silent. Even the 6 of the 10 blades looked at Doflamingo in surprise. The rarity of Vastord is much more precious than that of the captain. The so-called Daxu is divided into 3 grades, Killian, Achukas, and Vastod. Killian is composed of hundreds of virtual creatures after a long period of killing and eroding each other, and finally forming a fusion to become a new individual whose intelligence is only a beast. Achukas, among Killians, has a strong individual consciousness, and evolved after swallowing hundreds of Killians. Vastord, some mighty Achukas, would have divided into 2 paths if he devoured countless of his kin, and he was not injured himself. First, the power reaches a bottleneck, stagnating at the peak of Achukas. Second, breaking through the bottleneck, the power has undergone a qualitative change, becoming Vastord. Such a difficult birth process shows the rarity of Vastord. It can even be said that at the time of birth, a Vastod-level Great Void swallowed at least 1 million ordinary Void before and after. At this moment, a human said to the broken face, I am Vastord, how is it not shocking? Doflamingo chuckled twice, turned to look at Eisen, and said, Lord Eisen, it seems that I can't convince the public, and I need my strength for a while. No need. Genshin Aizen said calmly. The new 10 blades is the arrangement above. Ulquiorra. 7. Yes, Aizen-sama. Ulquiorra stepped forward and said respectfully. Our compatriot, Nellie L is in the present Naruto city, go and bring her back. Ft. Yes. Ulquiorra nodded and turned away immediately. The rest of the 10 blades must not leave the Zai Palace. Aizen Vivi Isho said, the enemy will attack soon. Don't worry, don't panic, I'm waiting for the front, absolutely invincible. In the present world, Naruto City. Chuhara 7 Chome, in an old apartment. Unlike the shabby exterior, the interior of the room is spacious and bright, with a living room and bar. Behind the bar, a middle-aged man with an eye patch on his right eye, a beard, and a waiter's clothes was quietly wiping the goblet. In front of the bar, a red-haired girl with 2 long ponytails fiddled with the drink in her glass. On the sofa, a quiet man flipped through books. A boy was sitting on the table, playing with an electric handheld. In the hall, a brown-skinned, short-haired woman with thick lips was cleaning. This is the execution department, base. At this moment, the door of the room was pushed open, and a man with a big back head walked in. The man wore a black coat with a fluffy collar and a silver cross necklace, with a tired look on his face. Seeing him enter the door, the 5 people in the room all looked up. You're back, Yincheng, the woman sweeping the floor greeted. Ah, it's a mess of porridge outside. Ginjo Kongo sat down on the sofa all of a sudden, and said with a speechless face, Hero, Bromian, Death, and Angel, it's a hell. Fortunately, I'm quick-witted, otherwise I'll be entangled. It's so messy now, it's better for us to hide here. The boy playing video games whispered. This is a secret base, absolutely safe. Boom. Before his words were finished, the wall suddenly burst, and then a tall figure was slowly walking in. Hey, is it absolutely safe here? The lies of a few little mice. The person who appeared was wearing a sword, a mask with an empty chin, an empty hole in the mouth, dressed in white clothes, and had the number, A5, on the left shoulder. Broken face. Ginjo Kongo's face sank. Have you been followed? The first time we met, I'm the A5 level face of the face-breaking army, Soldoya. The broken face, who claimed to be Soldoya, smiled and said, You are the psychic people who have mastered the power of the void. No, it should be the human beings who were invaded by the power of the void and gave birth to superhuman humans. Forget it, no matter which one, it doesn't matter. Anyway, Aizen-sama is here. At the same time, Chohara Sanchome, a park. Ishida Yulong gasped heavily. He had escaped from the battle between Archangel and Aizen before, and he was barely affected, so he was lucky. Not only that, he also saved a broken face by the way. The broken face is Nellie L, who was healed by the Archangel and is still in a semi-conscious state. Really, why should I save a broken face? Ishida Yulong couldn't help slandering himself. He looked up at his palm, and there was a holy light shining in the palm of his hand. That guy Longxian is right, the light of angels has boosted my power. At this moment, in the space ahead, a crack was torn open, and an indifferent man walked out of it. Black accent. Ishida Yulong was shocked. Human no, Quincy. Ulquiorra looked at each other silently and said, Give me Nellie Alu by your side. Whatever, I just saved her accidentally. Ishida Yulong said defensively. However, at this moment, a red virtual bullet came from a very far distance. With a whoosh, it quickly hit Ulquiorra in the face. Seeing this, Ulquiorra Vivi stretched out his hand, grabbed with 5 fingers, and instantly shattered the virtual bullet. Come out. As expected of the 10 blades, hee, a man with a broken face stepped closer in the sneer. You want to take this woman away, but that's not possible. The order given to me by Aizen-sama is to kill her. Hearing this, Ulquiorra's expression did not change. He said calmly, Lord Aizen's order to me is to bring Nellie back to the Void Night Palace safely. There is a conflict between our tasks, so it seems that we have to annihilate you. Between the words, he stretched out a finger. Wang Shu's flash. Chapter 0531 _ I just watched the play. Wang Shu's flash. From Ulquiorra's fingertips, an azure flash shot out. Seeing this, the incoming grinning Isho didn't dodge or evade, letting the virtual flash hit. Boom. In the sound of the explosion, his figure turned into a fly, and he was beaten into dust by one blow. Huh. Ulquiorra turned his eyes and turned to his side suddenly, raising his right arm at the same time. The next moment, a sword blade slashed down. Boom. The sword slashed on his forearm, but it failed to break through its steel skin, and not even a single mark was left. Cut. The 10 blades of the Vastord class, the defense is really abnormal. Broken Face tutted, but he missed a hit, so he had to retreat. Ulquiorra Vivi frowned and said softly, "Overdrive regeneration. The virtual flash just now really hit. This is definitely not an illusion. I am afraid it is the ability of a clone. Use super speed regeneration to create clones, confuse opponents, and hide the main body to attack." What rank are you, a broken face? Humph, I'm B2, bravades. B level, the second level, means that it is just a broken face of the Killian level. Ulquiorra thought to himself that these Killians had broken faces, and their abilities were rather strange. You must have been thinking just now, just Killian. Bravaz sneered, all our B-rank broken faces, in order to fight against the 10 blades, are specialized types. In short, they are specially strengthened for your 10 blades power. Strengthening is super speed regeneration. Between the words, he suddenly tore off his left arm, and then threw it at Ulquiorra. This broken arm, at the moment of approaching, quickly wriggled and turned into a figure. That is Bravaz, a clone. Immediately after the clone appeared, he stabbed straight ahead, aiming at Ulquiorra's heart. I didn't underestimate you, and because of this, even if you are a Killian-class broken face, I will do my best. Ulquiorra pulled out the Zanpakuto at once, blocking the clone's attack with a sword, and at the same time drank lightly, block it, black-winged demon. Boom. Reiki was like rain, and the sky suddenly darkened. His return to the blade immediately attracted the attention of countless people. In the center of the city, at the top of a building, Saifeng Yuanyei held a telescope and observed the situation in the city. Although I don't know the specific situation, it seems that a fight is about to occur between the two Aizen. She said softly, in the park, the two sides are already at war. What do you think, Kazuki? Hearing this, Urahara Kazuki Vivi raised his head, looked in the direction of the park, and said solemnly, so it seems that Aizen's purpose is to take back the Zai Palace. Isn't that nice? Behind him, Kurosaki rolled his eyes and said, wouldn't it be more beneficial to us if the two Aizen fight to the death? What do you mean by your deadly expression? The question is, why did Aizen cause such a riot in Naruki City? Urahara Kazuki took a deep breath and said, I always feel that he is planning something. Now the riot has lasted for more than half an hour, and the number of human deaths is as high as tens of thousands. Not only human beings are dead, but there are also many emptiness and great emptiness attracted by souls. If you care so much, just call the door and ask if it's not clear. Kurosaki Yixin had a troublesome expression on his face, guessing and guessing, there will be no result. Although what you said makes sense, Mr. Kurosaki. Urahara Kazuki sighed. At this moment, a mocking voice came. Are you going to deal with Aizen? Suddenly hearing other people's voices, the three of them all changed their expressions, then looked up and looked above the roof water tank. On top of the silver-white water jug, a young man in a death tyrant suit was sitting there cross-legged. Night King, Saifeng Yuanyi Yisho frowned. No, do you want to call you the captain of the 5th Division now? Good afternoon, 3. Vivi Isho, the King of Knights, said, you must be thinking, why did Aizen cause such a commotion? You know, Kurosaki said sullenly. I don't know, but the result of my guess should be close to 10. King of Knights chuckled and said, Aizen created the Broken Face Legion to attack the Void Circle and regain the Void Knight Palace, but his current Broken Face is only 2 or 3 kittens. Compared with the 10 blades of the Void Circle, it's so rubbish, so he needs to collect a lot of human souls and virtual. There is no need for the King of Knights to talk about the latter. Kazuki Urahara has already guessed 7 or 8 points along this line of thinking. He wants to make a weapon, or a special broken face. Urahara Kazuki's expression changed slightly. He must be stopped, otherwise, the entire city's human beings will become sacrifices. However, just as he was about to take action, the next moment, above this building, 4 figures suddenly appeared. These 4 people are all broken faces. Stop Aizen-sama, HMPH, stop making people laugh. Among them, the leader is clear-eyed and indifferent. I'm A2 level Pomian, Wisewater. These 3 are A3 rank Pomian, Burgos, B3 rank Pomian, Roja, B4 rank Pomian, Torres. After a pause, he said disdainfully, we have already discovered your existence and have been monitoring you all the time. I didn't want to pay attention to you, but if you want to stop Aizen-sama's plan, then you have to clear the 4 of you. Quote. Hearing this, the King of Knights waved his hands again and said, hey, I don't count, I don't mean to organize you Aizen-sama, I just happen to be sitting here. Humph. For this, Whiteswater just snorted lightly, and the next moment, his figure had disappeared and appeared on the water jug. You are a special person, marked by Aizen-sama as the primary target of annihilation. As he spoke, his palm slammed into the heart of the King of Knights. He used the sound to get close and attacked from behind. Everything was extremely fast, as if he was going to kill the King of Knights with one blow. A special person. The King of Knights shook his head, stretched out his hand and grabbed it. In the future, he firmly grasped the paw behind him. It's really troublesome. Although I just want to watch the play, you have already taken the initiative. If I don't do anything, I can't justify it, right? Between the words, Hivivi looked sideways, and at the same time held the handle of the Zanpakuto in his left hand. Remember to say hello to you Aizen-sama for me provided you are alive. Bankai. Boom. A sky-high golden spiritual pressure burst out from the body of the King of Knights. In the next moment, the golden field on the first floor completely blocked the space including the entire building in an instant. Welcome to the realm of the Knights of the Round Table. Chapter 0532-Heishu. This is what? A2 grade broken face. Wisewater looked surprised. He looked left and right, but saw a layer of golden enchantment that wrapped the entire building. He reflexively hit the barrier with a punch, but he failed to break it. It was like hitting a big drum, but it made a muffled sound, and the impact was absorbed by the barrier. This is my Bankai, no fuss. King of Knights was still sitting on the water jug, and said contemptuously, the so-called A2 level broken face is a Chuka's, so to speak, it is a broken face close to 10 blades. The concentration is too poor. Bankai, kill you, this barrier will disappear naturally. With a cold snort, Wisewater pulled out the blade from his waist and slashed away from the air. His slash cut through the space, setting off a sharp wind. Your opponent is not me, play with my knight. The King of Knights was too lazy to answer, and threw the Zanpakuto in his hand. The moment the blade flew out, it immediately shone with golden light, and then turned into a knight in golden armor. Facing Wisewater's attack, the knight resisted with his body, grabbed with his left hand, and pinched the opponent's Zanpakuto. I am one of the 12 knights of the Round Table, the 6th knight, the Knight of Honor. Let me be your opponent. The knight in golden armor transformed by the blade spoke in a serious tone. By the way, if you want to break the barrier here, you can only defeat our 12 knights. The 12 knights of the Round Table are humility, honor, sacrifice, valor, mercy, honesty, justice, and soul, and the 4 above them are equality, liberty, fraternity, and faith, knight. Every knight has different abilities. It can be said that the Bankai of the King of Knights is too large to be mastered in a short period of time. So far, after passing through the Lingwang Palace and his party, he has only mastered 4 kinds of knights. At this moment, seeing that the King of Knights didn't bother to take care of him at all, Wisewater was instantly angry. It's really defiant, a mere god of death. Judge him, Dark Judge. Boom. The spiritual pressure skyrocketed several times, and Whitewater released the sword. After returning to the blade, his form changed. His left hand is a law code, right hand is a mallet. However, the King of Knights was obviously not interested. He was sitting on the ground above the water jug with an expression like watching a play. Seeing this, Urahara Kazuki said, "Mr. Yaichi, Mr. Kurosaki, let's do it together, solve these broken faces as soon as possible, and stop Aizen." Saying that, he walked towards the other 3 broken faces first. "You 3 seem to be very strong. In order to hurry up, so I'm sorry. Bankai Guanyin Kai Hongji Kai." Boom. Another Reiatsu burst, and behind Urahara Kazuki, a woman with long hair in a classical bun, wearing a kimono with sleeves and puppet-like limbs suddenly appeared. Its body is huge, and after it appears, it quickly disappears. Quick fight. Seeing this, Saifeng Yuanyei immediately joined the battle, instant coax. Chuhara Tuchome, the site of the original hospital. After the battle with the Archangel, the hospital was completely destroyed, and the laboratory was reduced to ashes. However, deep underground, there is still a safe and sound place. At this moment, in the dark room, Aizen was holding a glass bottle containing light blue liquid and smiled. "This is the pure power of 10,000 human souls purified, and you can do many things with it." Oh, Ichimaru Jin raised an eyebrow. "This is thanks to another me. He is more powerful than me, and uses Benyu to a greater extent. He can purify the big void and create a phantom jade, similar to Benyu. The name of phantom jade comes from great." Aizen said with admiration. "When we were in private contact with 10 Blades, we learned of the existence of the phantom jade, and this attack on the virtual circle was one of the goals." To be honest, Shuyi Palace is not worth mentioning to Aizen. He didn't have the idea of taking back the Void Knight Palace, it was just Wanyu that made him very curious. Otherwise, he wouldn't attack the virtual circle at all, he would just form a new face-breaking army, counterattack the corpse and soul world, and finally hit the Spirit King Palace. Is it really attacking the virtual circle? Ichimaru Jin narrowed his eyes, always feeling that Aizen was still hiding something. "Well, 5 bottles have been collected, enough." Saying that, Aizen threw 5 bottles of blue liquid into a sink. With a bang, the bottle shattered, the liquid mixed into the sink, and then the water in the entire sink turned black. Puff puff. It was like boiling water, with bubbles constantly emerging from it. After half an hour, when the black liquid gradually disappeared, there was already a squatting boy holding his knees in the sink. The young man with long horns slowly raised his head. "New compatriot, what's your name?" Aizen asked softly. "Black name Black." The boy slowly got up from the sink, his skin was extremely dark. "Who are you?" "Blue Dye." "Aizen sir." He bluffed, as if he was still learning how to speak. Seeing this, Ichimaru Jin frowned. "Did you fail?" "It worked." Aizen smiled and said, "Just in order to gain great power, I made him give up most of his language ability, intelligence, lifespan, etc. The lifespan of this thing is only 3 days." Ichimaru Jin's expression froze. The 3-day lifespan means that this black phantom may have power beyond the Vastord level. In the initial design, I wanted to artificially make a Weistrad. At that time I thought that the lifespan would be about 1 month or even longer. After all, it has been successful before, using the soul of the god of death to create a broken face called White, the virtual white of the Vastod level, which currently exists in Kurosaki Ichigo's body. This time, more powerful than Zubai, called Hei, Haiksu. Thinking of this, Ichimaru Jin asked, "So, is it necessary to continue the riots in Naruki City?" "Let them go." It's enough to contain Kazuki Urahara. Aizen said lightly. Black, open the black cavity and attack the virtual circle. Yes. Less. Heishu stretched out his finger and tapped the space lightly. As if pressing on a switch, the front it points to, the space is divided. Let's go. Aizen took the first step and stepped into the black cavity. Soon after, the virtual circle, the inner circle, and the outside of the virtual night palace. Above the sky, the invisible monster opened its huge mouth, and inside, 3 people walked out. In an instant, 3 huge spiritual pressures were immediately locked. Zai Palace, in the main hall. Vivi opened her eyes. It's coming sooner than expected. Can't wait. Aizen-sama. Doflamingo chuckled twice. Furfurfur, do you need to greet me? To meet. No, it's to meet. Wanthan Aizen chuckled and said, 10 Blades Army, dispatch. Chapter 0533_Indigo and Indigo. It's still the same scenery as ever. A virtual circle, a world without day. Above the sky, a full moon floats forever, and under the full moon, there are deserts, gobi, and rock cliffs. Aizen took the first step and walked in the direction of Zai Palace. Come on, Silver. The 3 walked one after another, as if they were traveling on foot. They walked all the way, and soon came to the front door of Zai Palace. In front of the gate, stood a broken face, wearing a cow skull mask, like a door god, standing in front of Zai Palace. A funeral for the troops. Ichimaru Jin narrowed his eyes and said in a frivolous tone, What's your name? Lutherburn, Lord Ichimaru. The broken face calling himself Lutherburn, he said in a serious tone. The broken face number is number 61, the Killian grade broken face. It is obviously not this guy's task to bury the army, which is specially responsible for dealing with the broken face of defeat and defending against foreign enemies. Of course Ichimaru Yin knew the functions of the various positions in Zai Palace, so he said, You are standing here to stop us. No, just an exhortation to Aizen 15-sama. Lutherburn said in a low voice. Go away, Master Aizen, Master Ichimaru, the one who is sitting in Zai Palace now is definitely not something you can defeat. Hearing this, Aizen glanced. Silver. I see. Ichimaru Jin shook his head, immediately took 3 steps forward, and at the same time pulled out his zanpakudo, tucked the blade around his waist, and pointed forward. Shoot him, sharpshooter. Whoosh. With the words of liberation, the blade of the sharp spear extended instantly, and in an instant, the sword had come to Lutherburn. Puff. A sword seals the throat. Luther didn't have time to avoid it, and when he realized that he was attacked, the sword had pierced his throat. Huh. Lutherburn opened his mouth, staggered 2 steps, and slowly fell forward. Blue Aizen. His last words were very desolate, and there were a few traces of anger. However, Aizen didn't care about that. Black. As soon as the words fell, Heishu had already rushed over. He tore off Lutherburn's head and took a breath. Immediately, this Kyrian-level broken face was forcibly decomposed into a spiritual child, and was swallowed by it. It's unpalatable. Devouring Lutherburn, the young Heishu let out a hoarse moan. At this moment, the gate of Zai Palace was slowly pushed open, and behind it, 3 figures stepped out. These 3 were the 60th Blade Grimjow, the 70th Blade Luby, and the 10th Blade Fang Mi. This kind of rubbish, I didn't like him a long time ago. Yami glanced at Lutherburn's clothes, snorted, and said, What kind of burial troops, there is no need to exist. Yami. Aizen looked at each other calmly. Grimjow, Yami, step back. Lord Aizen, no Aizen. Yami grinned. You are not the king of Zai Palace, you are not qualified to order me. The order given to us by the current lord is to protect Dor. That's not right, Tomi. Ruby is a sissy with very long sleeves and her hands are tucked into the sleeves. At this moment, she said with a light smile, After all, it is the former Aizen-sama. Aizen-san Yusuke-sama, you have to pass through the gate of Zai Palace. the three of us must be unstoppable, but we must guard the gate. Here, I have a proposal. Quote. For this, Eisen didn't bother to pay attention, just walked towards the gate, ignoring the 310 blades. Ruby continued, as long as you don't invade from the gate, the three of us can turn a blind eye. How about invading from the Tianling Guy of the Void Knight Palace? Now that Lord is on the top floor of the Void Knight Palace. The main hall, the invasion from there may be closer. Eisen ignored his words, and when the other party finished speaking, he had already made a grand gesture and passed between the three of them. Grimjow and Yami finally did not choose to do it. But Ruby's face sank, the corners of her eyes locked on Eisen, and seeing her ignoring her, anger arose in her heart. Suddenly, he shot silently and stabbed Eisen's vest with a sword. Don't you understand what I'm talking about? Do you think the current Zai Palace is still the same as when you were in power? Eisen. The sword came out in anger and aimed at Eisen's heart. However, his movements are fast, and someone is faster than him. Seeing a black shadow passing by, Ruby failed to stab Eisen with her sword. Her head was already caught by a black palm, and she flew over 100 meters with a single blow. Boom! He was smashed into the wall of Zai Palace and smashed a large area. What? Ruby's expression changed greatly, and she secretly said, the black face. What a fast speed, my probing nerves didn't respond. He didn't even see what happened, only that he was grabbed by the head and then smashed into the air. It was only after he knocked down the wall that he realized that the black face, who had just foolishly stood beside Lutherburn's body, actually attacked him. Don't be too arrogant. Ruby got up from the gravel with an ugly face. However, before he finished speaking, the black broken face was already in front of him, and another punch hit him. Let's make trouble, Black. Eisen had already stepped into the Zai Palace and walked away without looking back. Seeing this, Ichimaru Yin immediately retracted his knife, followed, and opened his mouth with a smile as he walked. Grimjow, Jamie, I've specially given you a piece of advice. That black face is even higher than Vastord, so please do your best not to be devoured by it. Oh, by the way, its special ability is, it can devour the same clan and quickly become stronger. This clan also includes your broken face. Hearing this, the pupils of the two shrank, and when they came back to their senses, Eisen and Ichimaru Jin had disappeared at the entrance. 10 minutes later, in the depths of Zai Palace, on the only way to the top floor. In the 10th blade, Stark stood in the center of the corridor, and beside him was a petite woman with a broken face. Looking at the arrival of Eisen and Ichimaru Jin, he sighed and scratched his head. Why should I do such a troublesome thing? Lillinet, anyway, let's say hello to Eisen-sama first. The broken face known as Lillinet rolled his eyes and said, this time it's the enemy, idiot. Seeing this, Eisen paused and said, Stark, step back. No, Eisen-sama, the stairs behind me lead to the top floor. My task is to stop the intruders. Stark rolled his eyes and said in a low voice, I certainly can't stop it, but Ichimaru-sama, I have to stop it, otherwise, that person will punish us very badly. Really? Eisen Vivi Isho said, so, Silver. Yes, I knew it would be so. Ichimaru Jin shook his head helplessly and said, you think you can stop me, Stark? The duty lies, the situation forces it. Stark said calmly, Lillinet. I know, I'll be the head office. Lillinet snorted, and then the two of them sang in unison, chase him, pack of wolves. Boom. A huge spiritual pressure burst out in an instant, destroying this long corridor at once, and the entire Zai Palace was shaking violently. At the same time, Eisen took a step forward and passed the two in an instant. He stepped up the stairs and headed towards the top of the Zai Palace. A few minutes later, in an empty and quiet hall. The fantasy body Eisen opened his eyes. He calmly looked at Eisen, who pushed the door and opened his mouth with a smile. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Chapter 0534 You are just aboriginal. I've been waiting for you for a long time. The Phantom Eisen was sitting on the throne, leaning on his head with one hand, quietly looking at Eisen. On his side are the 30th blade Hannibal, the 80th blade Doflamingo, and the 9th blade, an extremely weak broken face. Looking at the 3 broken faces beside him, Eisen said lightly, "What's the point of assigning some cannon fodder to stop me? Since you are me, you should be very clear about my strength. It really doesn't make sense. Even if the 10 blades are all tied together, it is not a match for Eisen alone." He. Huan Shenlan Ran chuckled twice and said, "If you choose to see me at this time, do you think you have a chance of winning? What do you think? Am I going to come here without any preparations?" For this kind of bravado, Genshin Eisenquan should not have heard. He waved his hand and asked the 3 people beside him to back away for a while before he said, "Since you are so confident, let the horses come over." As soon as the voice fell, Eisen had already moved. He stepped Vivi with his right foot, and in an instant, he had already swept past the throne, and then the sword in his right hand slashed down. Perfect Shunpo, who can achieve this level? I'm afraid there is only one soldier in the main army. Genshin Eisen said approvingly, and he gently stretched out 2 fingers in the face of the attacking sword. Ding! This sword, unremarkable, was easily pinched by 2 fingers. However, the next moment, the pressure of the sword spread, as if an incomparably heavy force slapped down. Boom! In an instant, the throne turned into powder, and the ground of the entire hall cracked in an instant. The 3 Doflamingos standing behind Wanshan Lanyan were all blown away by the hurricane, and they were blown away by dozens of meters in an instant. Far. The battle between the 2 Eisen, Hannibal stabilized his body and looked at the center of the battle with squinted eyes. It's terrifying that the aftermath can cause such power with just a single strike. Contrary to him, Doflamingo was in high spirits. Lord Eisen is stronger than when he was in the pirate world, but the other Eisen seems to be stronger, he thought to himself. The cutting-edge combat power in this world is even more terrifying than Whitebeard at its peak. Much more. While thinking about it, he reached out and grabbed it, grabbing the number 9 and 10 blades in his hand, and then quickly retreated to avoid the aftermath of the battle. His mission is to protect this broken face. This is the order issued by Wanshan Eisen. In the center of the battlefield, with Eisen's sword, the entire hall completely collapsed, and even the ceiling was shattered, and the false sky in the Zai Palace was hanging above the heads of the 2 of them. Change the place, you don't want the Zai Palace to turn into ruins. Genshin Eisen Isho flicked his left hand. Boom! Cut! An invisible impact knocked Eisen flying, and at the same time, his figure flew into the air and rushed out of the palace. Boom! Bu! With a loud bang, the sky cover was broken, and the phantom body blue dye came to the virtual night palace. The false sky has disappeared, replaced by the real scenery of the virtual circle. A huge palace stands on the deserted land. On the top floor of the palace, strange cylindrical buildings stand everywhere. Mianthan Eisen stood on one of the columns, staring at the breach below. I saw a flash of figures, and Eisen had followed him. Seeing this, Mianthan Eisen immediately said, I have a doubt. The Void Night Palace is not that important to you, so you don't need to spend a lot of effort to get it back. You merged the Bengu and created a new broken face. Legion, although the combat strength is worrying, it is not comparable to the troops of the Zai Palace, but it is not impossible to deal with the Soul Realm. Pause, he said, isn't your purpose to kill the Spirit King? There should be a good reason for running here to fight with me. I'm very curious about this reason. Reason? Eisen raised her eyebrows. You don't know. The reason I'm here is, of course, to pursue a higher realm. So it is. Hearing this, Eisen couldn't help laughing. I didn't expect that Eisen Sosuke, in the depths of your soul, is also engraved with the instinct to pursue fighting. Don't compare me to a low-level existence like the virtual. Eisen said calmly, since I answered your question, now, please answer me a question. Excuse me. Who are you? You are not the me in the parallel world, nor the future me, nor the perfect me that I pretended to be. Then, who is you who owns Bengu and is merging with Bengu? Your collapsed jade, where did it come from? As if holding back for a long time, Aizen couldn't help but ask her doubts. He want to know. Illusory Blue ran haha Isho, said, you are not qualified yet. The 78th of breaking the way, Zanwa wheel. Between the words, his 2 fingers waved. In an instant, a circular slash shot towards the bottom. Seeing this, Aizen raised his right arm high and slashed with a sword. Whoosh! With a flash of silver light, the round wheel slash was cut, but its power remained undiminished, passing from both sides of Aizen, like tofu, easily cutting through the sky cover of Zai Palace and falling towards the white sand below. Boom! In the midst of the loud noise, in the Zai Palace, the circular slashes that were divided into 2 fell on the ground, and in an instant, the ground was cut, leaving 2 bottomless dark abyss. This is not the power of the ghost level. Aizen Bibi narrowed his eyes. Zanwa wheel, when did it have such a level of destructive power? Ghost Road, that is a standard skill, a kind of spiritual power utilization skill. 78 used by Genshin Aizen has even surpassed number 95. What's so hard about this? Wanshin Aizen asked back. The ghost path inspired by singing, as long as you are proficient in its principles and want to change its nature and power, it's easy, such as the 4th way of breaking the path, Baile. Chi. Intense lightning flashes, and at the fingertips of the phantom body blue dye, a huge incomparable spiritual pressure, quickly turned into the power of thunder. Flash. One word fell, and the power of thunder turned into a sturdy impact, which was suddenly shot. What? Aizen couldn't help being surprised, and looked at this basic ghost path with a bit of shock. Ordinary white thunder is only about the thickness of the fingers, but this white thunder is hundreds of times thicker than the original. Boom! Baile flashed over the top of Aizen's head, broke the spirit cover, and fell into the Zai Palace. But at the next moment, Aizen Isho Phantom Body hooked his index finger, and said, flashback. In an instant, Baile, who was slanting towards the ground, suddenly made 2 90-degree right-angle turns. After changing its direction, it broke through the sky cover again and attacked from behind Aizen. How is this possible? Aizen turned back suddenly, her pupils shrinking suddenly. In the next instant, the power of Baile swallowed it up. Boom boom boom. A mushroom cloud is rising at the top of Zai Palace. The so-called ghost way, that's what happened, Aizen. The reason why you can't do it is not because you can't do it, but because you have limitations. After all, you are only aboriginal. Chapter 0535_humble as a worm. Ghost Road. Generally, the god of death will start to learn this skill when he is at the true Central Spiritual Arts Academy. For the god of death, Ghost Way is a very important ability. You may not be good at it, but you must learn the basics, otherwise you will not be able to graduate. Among them, number 4 Breaking Tao is one of the most basic ghost ways. Basically, the students of Junyang Academy of Spiritual Arts can play this kind of low-level ghost way. White Thunder, used by Wanshin Aizen at this moment, is different from the White Thunder in the general sense. It just has the characteristics of White Thunder, and its actual power is already very different. This is not an incomparable ability, it just improves the way of stimulating ghosts, not to mention Aizen, even Kuchiki Byakuya, as long as he has this idea, after training, he can do it. But the natives are natives after all, and the power system of contact is like this. It is bound by the framework and it is difficult to be flexible. Compared with Aizen, Urahara Kazuki is better at this point. Don't pretend to be dead, it's just a ghost. Genshin Aizen stood on the column, staring at the center of the explosion below. After a long time, the smoke gradually dissipated. I saw Aizen standing in place, with electric light flashing around his body. Bailei's characteristic is paralysis, and spiritual power invades the body, paralyzing the internal organs and limbs. In an instant, my heart was paralyzed by your power of lightning and stopped beating. 483 It's a pity that you gave up a chance to hurt me in vain. Aizen moved her fingers and managed to regain her mobility. The spiritual pressure of the god of death is derived from the beating of the heart. Every time it beats, the spiritual pressure will be continuously generated, and just now, my heart stopped and the spiritual pressure disappeared. For a split second, then, you had a chance to kill me. As he said that, a click sounded on his face, and cracks appeared in the white real spiritual pressure drive shell. The crack spread, and after covering the entire head, the shell shattered with a bang. Phase 3. Aizen Vivi Isho sarcastically said, "You not only lost a chance to hit me hard, but also helped me improve to the next stage. This arrogance will make you kill yourself. Idiot, just trying to force you into the 5th stage." Illusory body Aizen secretly said in his heart that the deeper the fusion between Aizen and Bengyu, it shows that the fusion between the two Bengyu is more and more mature. As long as the two Bengyu are completely fused, they can start to capture. Don't speak. Are you regretting? Regret not attacking me just now? Seeing that he was silent, Aizen immediately smiled and said, "Thanks to you, I learned interesting moves." "Your ghost, is that so Bai Lei?" Between words, he pointed out. Immediately, a white lightning as thick as a bucket shot out towards Wanshan Aizen. "I learned very quickly, but I only learned a little bit." Wanshan Lan dismissed it, waved his hand, and stuck out a palm. The lightning hit his palm and was shattered by his palm, not even a trace of dust was raised. It is also an improved Bailey, but the difference in power is at least 10 times. "Sure enough, I used your moves to deal with you, I thought too much." Aizen shook his head regretfully. Before his voice could reach his ears, he had suddenly disappeared. In a tenth of a second, Aizen appeared behind Genshin Aizen, and the Zanpakudo in his hand swept out with a sword. "Since just now, I've wanted to ask, where is your mirror flower?" Seeing this, Wanshan Aizen turned his head to the left of Vivi, and avoided the sword. The next moment, he pointed out. Super Void. At the end of his finger, a blue spiritual pressure gathered into a spherical shape, rapidly expanding, and turned into a huge fog with a diameter of tens of meters. Immediately afterwards, it rolled over towards Aizen like a giant wheel. Aizen, who kept dodging backwards, evacuated hundreds of meters, and this huge virtual bullet exploded. Boom! In the roar, half of the sky cover of Zai Palace was lifted off, and everything within a radius of hundreds of meters and kilometers was erased. And the space of the virtual circle was distorted at this moment, and a layer of vague dark shadow replaced the original space color. Has it been blown to ashes? Wanshan Lanyan raised an eyebrow. However, the next moment, a sharp sword pierced his chest. Puff! Blood sprayed, and the blade was covered with bright red blood. Aizen stood behind the phantom body Aizen, opened his eyes indifferently, and said, "The power of that attack is indeed huge, but the speed is too slow, you are too arrogant." "It's you who is arrogant." The voice of the phantom blue die sounded, and the next moment, the scenery changed. Aizen's eyes widened, full of shock. The sky cover of the Zai Palace still exists, the aftermath of the explosion disappeared, and the distortion of space did not appear at all. On top of the column dozens of meters ahead, Aizen still stood there, safe and sound. Seeing this scene, Aizen's pupils shrank, and she said in awe, "King Washwayu." When? Hearing this, Hanshin Aizen looked down at the other party calmly. When? Do you also ask this kind of thing? Just think about it with your brain and you'll know, of course, from the moment you broke the sky cover and entered here. Bai Lei is fake. Super false bullets are fake. Even the previous conversations were fake. Aizen's face was extremely ugly, and deep wrinkles appeared between his brows. Where's your sword? Abandoned. Wanshan Aizen said calmly. Unlike you, my evolutionary path, in the first stage, gave up Jingwashwayu. Pause, he said again. No, the word abandonment is not used correctly. It should be the form of the blade that can no longer carry my power, so it collapsed. Zanpakudo disappeared. Hearing this, Aizen's heart sank and subconsciously pressed her chest. There, the power of Bengyu is slowly emitting, inspiring his potential and pushing him to evolve to a higher level. He conveyed the idea of cracking the mirror and water moon, but Bengyu did not respond. Don't struggle, just relying on you in the third stage, still want to crack Jinghua Shuiyu's complete hypnosis. Huan Shen Lan Ran smiled and said, He Lan Ran, do you think you have any chance of winning? In my mirror, is the me you see now the real me? What you heard, did you really say it? Even, you feel that you are safe and sound, not hurt in any way, really not hurt. As soon as the voice fell, Aizen's complexion changed greatly. His pupils shrank suddenly, and his eyes shifted to the right. In his peripheral vision, an arm was flying in the air, slowly falling to the side. That's my right hand. He was inexplicably shocked. Look, I chopped off your hand and you don't feel anything. Huan Shen Lan Ran raised her eyebrows slightly, her eyes sympathetic. In my mirror, you are just a small and humble insect. No, unforgivable, you bastard. Lan Ran's face was ashen, and her mentality was unbalanced. It's impossible, Jinghua Shuiyu can't do such a thing. It's fake, it's just an illusion. Genshin Aizen's eyes became more and more pitiful. You can't do it, not me. Aizen. Chapter 0536 Through the Mirror. The ability of Jinghua Shuiyu is to completely hypnotize the opponent, to control the five senses of the opponent, so that the appearance, shape, quality, feeling, and even smell of a certain object can be completely believed by the master. To put it simply, the enemy can see flies as giant dragons, and swamps as flower fields. But on the other hand, if there are no flies, then naturally they will not be regarded as giant dragons. Therefore, Jinghua Shuiyu has a characteristic, that is, there is no way to create something out of nothing. At the same time, Kyoka Suzuki's activation condition is to let the enemy see the moment when his Zanpakuto is released. However, Mianthan Aizen didn't even have a knife, let alone liberation. In addition, the way to crack Jinghua Shuiyu is to touch Jinghua Shuiyu's blade before the ability is activated. In the same way, now that the Zanpakuto has disappeared, this cracking method is obviously ineffective. It's impossible. Aizen clutched her severed arm with a very ugly expression. If even the method to crack it disappears, how can I get rid of complete hypnosis? It was the first time that he was the only one who used the mirror to play tricks on others and was played with applause. As if seeing his inner thoughts, Genshin Aizen chuckled and said, Are you thinking about how to break my complete hypnosis? Even the Zanpakuto is gone, so touching the blade is nonsense. Pause, he added. Afterwards, you must have thought that since the ability exists, then the carrier of this ability must exist. The blade is gone, but the initiator of the ability still exists. As long as it touches my body, I can crack the mirror. Is that so? With Aizen's wisdom, this level of thinking was completed in an instant. And when he heard this, Aizen's heart became more and more awe-inspiring. He did think so just now, and I have to say that the other one was completely correct. However, since the other party said so clearly, it was unexpected. Touching the other party's body may not resolve the current embarrassment. Moreover, he couldn't be sure whether the person he touched was the real Aizen, or whether it was an illusion created by Kyoka Shuiyu. Thinking of this, Aizen gradually calmed down. He took a deep breath, and his livid face gradually recovered. I was almost blinded by you. It doesn't take that much trouble to crack the mirror. Between the words, he drank lightly, mirror flowers water moon. Immediately, the body of his Zanpakuto exuded a faint blue luster. Aizen stared at his own blade, and after a while, closed his eyes. I just need to hypnotize myself. Once I hypnotize myself, your powers won't interfere with my five senses. Saying that, he suddenly opened his eyes. This time, he saw the real thing. The arm still exists, and the Void Knight Palace is also intact. The previous battle is half real and half false. Ayu. He was hit by white lightning and evolved to the third stage, which is true. Super Void Strike, it's fake. His sword pierced through another blue dye, which was also fake. Oh! Clap clap clap. Seeing this, Mianthan Eisen applauded lightly and couldn't help but praise. As expected of Eisen, he responded quickly, and he suddenly realized the core of solving the problem. It's as if the King of Knights used this to avoid being hypnotized by Eisen. Now Eisen herself is also using self-hypnosis to break the mirror flower Wateryu that was dyed by the phantom body Eisen. The principle is the same. At this moment, the truth of everything has been regained, and Eisen's form has returned to balance. It's a terrifying ability, even I feel that way myself. His face was calm, and white light flashed in his eyes. The next moment, an invisible wall of spiritual pressure was formed around his body, like a pair of armor, wrapped around his body. Super Spirit Pressure Wall. With that said, he walked towards Wanshan Eisen and said, "Then, let's end the boring little tricks. You keep looking down at me from a high place, and I'm not used to it, so let me shoot you down." He approached step by step, and when he walked in front of the column, the entire circular building collapsed. Boom! In an instant, the building turned into ashes and was forcibly smashed into the most basic spiritual child. And the phantom body blue dye on it immediately fell towards the bottom. As the super spirit pressing the wall, this kind of defensive wall can even smash the sudden burst of the world. He. Gently Isho, Wanshan Eisen punched downward. However, you are still in the category of death gods, just half a step into a new level. Then, this kind of ability, as long as you use a stronger spirit to crush it. That's it. The second stage is the cocoon. The third stage is just breaking the cocoon, which is a little bit closer to becoming a butterfly. Wanshan Eisen punched him, and a huge spiritual pressure gathered around him. Boom! Before this punch hit Eisen's body, it was the first to collide with the super spiritual pressure wall. In an instant, two spiritual pressures that surpassed the realm of death rubbed against each other and confronted each other. Immediately, shock waves spread outward. Boom boom boom. The sky cover of the entire Void Knight Palace is collapsing. Under these two extremely powerful spiritual pressures, all the broken faces in Zai Palace felt an extremely heavy pressure, as if the sky was about to collapse. Countless towering buildings collapsed under Reiatsu. It was as if the entire huge Void Knight Palace was slapped by an invisible force, and the space inside shook and shattered. Stark looked up at the sky, couldn't help shaking his head, and said, "It's a terrible Reiatsu. At such a distance, I feel short of breath. If I'm nearby, it's easy to be shocked to death by Reiatsu." Hearing this, Ichimaru Jin said with a smile, "The two are still in the stage of testing each other, and it will take a few days to decide the winner. Both of them are Eisen and have the same power. Although there is a slight gap in strength, it is not easy to decide the winner." "It seems you don't care much about the outcome." Stark raised his eyebrows. "The result is doomed from the start." Jin's smile faded. "Then, let me play with you too." Bankai. At the same time, outside the gate of Zai Palace. 70th Blade, Ruby is dead. His corpse was dismembered, and only one head was left, which still existed, and a terrified expression remained on his face. Not far away, a behemoth was crashing down. That was the 10th blade, YMI, 3.8. After returning to the blade, it was still easily killed and swallowed. At this moment, Heishu stood on top of his corpse, devouring Yami's power. In front of the gate, Grimjow's heart trembled, his eyes widened, and he looked at the thin void in front of him. His fingers vivi trembled, showing the previous tragic scene. Monster. This thing is not a broken face. No, it is not natural, it is artificial. Eisen. He turned sharply, trying to escape. Even Ruby and Yami were killed in a short period of time, and he was by no means an opponent. However, as soon as he acted, the black shadow in front of him flashed, and Heishu had already appeared in front of him. "Your power for me." Heishu's words were intermittent, and the moment he finished speaking, a black spiritual pressure gathered in front of his mouth. After an instant, a black flash suddenly fired. Black Void Flash. Chapter 0537-Butterfly. Black Void Flash. Boom. Black phantom flashes, flashing away. Its power is not so great, at most it is on par with Wang Shu's flash. However, when Grimjiao saw this scene, he didn't even mean to resist, and kept trying to dodge. However, the speed of this virtual flash is extremely fast, comparable to a virtual bullet, which is a dozen or 20 times the speed of a normal virtual flash. Damn it, just wipe it once and it's over. Grimjiao burst into full speed, dodging to one side. He clearly remembered that just a few minutes ago, Yami was hit by this kind of phantom flash, and then it was like poisoning. At this moment, with the psychological preparation, he is fully capable of avoiding it. Whoosh. Seeing a flash of figures, Grimjiao ducked to the side before being hit, avoiding the frontal blow. However, with a flick of Heishu's head, Vivi, this illusory flash followed Grimjiao's movement direction and swept past. How else can this be? 15. Oops. Grimjiao's heart thumped violently, and the sudden change made him unable to avoid it, and his left arm was slightly rubbed. At the moment when he was wiped by the virtual flash, he had already reacted and avoided it upwards. However, this slight trace of strength dyed his left palm black, and the blackness spread rapidly, and in an instant, his entire left arm was immersed. Damn, damn, damn. Grimjiao was full of resentment in his heart, and when he gritted his teeth, he directly tore his left arm and abandoned it far away. This is poison, specifically for the broken face. No, specifically for the poison of the 10 blades. At the moment of contamination, the toxin spreads, paralyzing nerves, and decomposing Reiatsu. If he hadn't given up his left arm just now, then in just 3 seconds, his entire being would be doomed, and he would lose his spiritual pressure in a short period of time, and then he would become a lamb to be slaughtered. Don't run. Heishu whispered unsmooth words, moved his feet, and quickly caught up. Bastard! Stop looking down on me! Squeak, Leopard King! Grimjiao was furious, and went straight into returning edge to liberate. However, at the moment of liberation, he did not choose to confront the enemy. If he escaped, he would flee towards the depths of the Void Night Palace. Boom boom boom. Above the sky, the death battle between the two Aizens caused a great shock. The sky cover of the entire Zai Palace has been riddled with holes, and large areas have been shattered. Now with another sword to block the attack, Aizen said as if he was enlightened, I understand. What does it mean that your evolutionary direction is different from mine? The path you chose is to integrate the spirit into yourself. The end strengthens Ruti. So, in the state of your bare hands, the power of each punch, the aftermath, is enough to flatten the hill. Quote. Tilda. He do you really understand? The Phantom Aizen chuckled lightly, and his body changed his posture in midair, kicking Aizen's chest with one kick. Boom. This kick down, simply broke through the opponent's super spirit pressure wall, and completely hit the main body. Under this foot, Aizen spit out blood from the corner of his mouth, and the whole person was like a cannonball, and was shot hundreds of meters away in an instant. It's not simply to strengthen Ruti with spiritual pressure, but it is similar to the instant coax of a white hit, putting his own spiritual power Chanrao on his fists and feet, and at the moment of attacking, he suddenly burst out with extraordinary power. Taking a blow from the front, Aizen finally understood the opponent's strength. Reiju is above me, and the speed surpasses me. The power of each blow can also break my super spiritual pressure wall. Am I wrong? He felt a little shake in his heart. It is also the use of Bengyu to evolve towards a higher dimension, but at present, the other one seems to be more correct. It's distracting, it's really courting death. Illusory body. Aizen's eyes were slightly condensed, and white light flashed all over the body. The next moment, the whole person disintegrated directly, and when it recondensed, it had already appeared behind Aizen. What kind of movement method is this? Aizen was shocked and pale. Disassemble and reconstitute one's own spiritual body. Impossible. Nothing is impossible. Wanthan Lan Ran snorted coldly, stretched out his right hand, grabbed the back of Aizen's neck directly, and then suddenly exerted force, throwing his entire body into the sky with a single throw. What brute force! Aizen only felt that his breathing was not smooth, and the strong wind pressure made it difficult for him to maintain his center of gravity and adjust his posture. It was false before, but now it is true. The phantom body grinned and pointed to the sky with one finger. Super void. The dazzling blue light converged and turned into a huge blue sun. The Reiatsu was burning like a flame. Whoosh! The super virtual projectile shot out high, followed by Aizen, rapidly expanding, 10 meters, 50 meters, 100 meters. In an instant, the super virtual bullet has turned into a huge blue fireball with a diameter of several hundred meters. The next moment, it exploded. Boom, boom, boom. I saw that above the Zai Palace, under a full moon, the entire sky was filled with this explosion. The aftermath of it distorted the space, and the black cavity was forcibly torn and exposed. And the Void Night Palace below, in an instant, a quarter of the area was pushed horizontally and flattened. Masses of yellow sand, like a tsunami, spread in all directions. Heishu and Grimjow, who were chasing and fleeing, were the first to be involved. Suddenly, like kites with broken strings, they were buried in sand and blown to nowhere. Imaginary Body Blue Dai stood in the air, with his hands in his pockets, quietly staring at the center of the explosion in the sky. Even in the third stage, is it difficult to escape the expansion speed of the super virtual bullet? Shaking his head, Aizen felt regretful. He still had 780 stronger moves to prepare, but before he could use it, Aizen couldn't hold on anymore. Of course, super virtual bullets can't kill the opponent. The blue dye that merged with Bengyu was almost indestructible. The only one who could succeed was the Emperor Qin. At this moment, at the center of the explosion ahead, the aftermath suddenly stopped, and then a strong and strange light shot into the sky. I saw a figure that looked like a butterfly in the light, slowly getting up. Bengyu's power repaired Aizen's wounds, and even his heart was repaired at once. Stage 4. Suddenly, Aizen opened his eyes and stared coldly below. It's really good, thanks to you breaking my body, Bengyu helped me rebuild a new shell, and now, I finally surpassed the god of death. A field. Hearing this, Wanshan Lanyan raised her eyebrows, not surprised. Bengyu, it seems that your Bengyu is very disappointed with you. This is forcing you to continue your life. What? Don't understand. Wanshan Aizen chuckled lightly. Yes, you will understand it soon. The so-called butterfly attitude is nothing but a helpless failure. Between the words, his body moved, and the whole person turned into a light form and disappeared in an instant. When he reappeared, he was already standing in front of Aizen. You have been dominated by Bengyu. Chapter 0538_Smash the Sky. You have been dominated by Bengyu. Bengyu, with self-awareness, can absorb and materialize the heart that exists around itself. It can protect the host's body from death and immortality. When the host's ability reaches the limit, or his life is threatened, the collapsed jade can make the host endlessly evolve to the next dimension. This is the foundation of Bengyu, and it is because of this that Aizen can return to normal in a short period of time and enter the fourth stage under the damage of the super virtual bullet. However, to forcibly enter the fourth stage is to overdraw the power of the future, and it is a failed evolution. It's like an underdeveloped baby being forcibly separated from its mother's body. So, this is a failed evolution. Bengyu has been disappointed in you, now, give it to me. Nianthan Aizen reached out with one hand and slowly grabbed the opponent's chest. In Aizen's chest, there is a gem that flashes blue-black light, that is Bengyu. HMPH, you are too arrogant, failure and success are not yours to decide. Aizen snorted coldly, the whole person turned into a flash of light, and then suddenly disintegrated. Your light form moves, I also master it. Wanshan Aizen failed with one hand, and immediately turned around and punched in the back. At the same time as he shot, the white light in front of it condensed and turned into a blue dye. Seeing a punch coming, Aizen swung the Zanpakuto in his right hand. Boom! The collision of the fist and the sword, they can't help each other. Look, now you can't hurt me anymore. Aizen said with satisfaction. Also, my Zanpakuto has been integrated with my right hand, and there are similarities between my evolutionary path and yours. Similar. Stop dreaming. Wanshan Lanran pouted. You are just constantly raising the level of spiritual pressure. The power you are showing now is just the accumulation of massive spiritual pressure. It is fundamentally different from me. As soon as the words fell, he kicked again, kicking Lanran into the air. In the previous third stage, Aizen vomited blood immediately after being kicked, but at this moment, as if nothing happened, he took a blow. I said, you can't hurt me anymore. Aizen's face was indifferent, as if he had taken the initiative for the first time. Since the previous fight, I have been suppressed by you, but now, we are in the same dimension. Hearing this, Wanshan Lanran chuckled and said, you don't have to be so humble, just in terms of the amount of spiritual pressure, you have surpassed me. However, you still can't beat me. I said that you are powerful now. Just built on the foundation of a huge Reiatsu. Quote. It is as if the wood has piled up a high-rise building. It looks very spectacular, but it can be destroyed by a fire. The avatar Aizen is different. His evolution has been a reinforced concrete house from the very beginning, which is extremely solid. Hearing this, Aizen unabashedly expressed contempt. Are you making excuses for your failure? The battle between the gods of death is essentially a battle of Reiatsu. The 90 of the path, the black coffin. He slapped it with a palm, and a black light flashed across his palm. The next moment, an incomparably heavy pressure suddenly descended on the whole body of Mianthan Aizen. After that, the black coffin was blocked, and ignoring sharp thorns appeared in the coffin. Seeing this, Mianthan Aizen was very calm. Vivi clenched his fist and slammed the black coffin to avoid his face. Boom! With a muffled sound that shook the space, the entire black coffin cracked open in an instant, then tore apart and quickly collapsed into slag. Don't you understand yet? Mianthan Aizen slowly revealed her figure and sneered. The battle of the god of death is the battle of Reiatsu. But I, even you, have surpassed the field of god of death. Aizen, it's really hard to see the coffin without tears. If that's the case, then let you see the realm of death above the realm of its power. Quote. As he said that, he stepped into the air with one step, and then hit the front with a punch. This time, the punch was extremely powerful, as if a master who had been immersed in martial arts for hundreds of years had finally struck the truth. Seeing this scene, Aizen's pupils shrank suddenly, and her heart was extremely horrified. Because at this moment, he could not feel the slightest fluctuation of spiritual pressure from the opponent. It was as if at this moment, the 10-blade level broken face could not sense his spiritual pressure. It is the qualitative difference in the level of life. Crash! As soon as the word fell, the fist power was everywhere, and in an instant, the space collapsed. The sky in the virtual circle was shattered abruptly by this punch, and a pitch-black world of black cavity was revealed behind it. Impossible. Lan Ran's heart was shocked, and this punch directly shattered his internal organs. Puff! Under the vomit of blood, his chest was smashed abruptly, and the smooth-colored collapsing jade was forcibly stripped out of his body. Very far away, Hallibal's eyes widened, full of sluggishness. This is not our ability to tear apart the black cavity but pure power, shattering the sky in the virtual circle. One punch shattered the sky of the virtual circle. If you hadn't seen it with your own eyes, it would have been impossible to believe. This is the power that surpasses the level of death and emptiness. In contrast, the evolution of Aizen is just to repeatedly improve its own spiritual pressure. Although it also surpasses the concept of death, it cannot stop the illusion of blue. Died punch. Now, do you understand? Aizen. The voice from the high place came, but Aizen felt that the world was spinning, and the whole person's consciousness fell into a semi-conscious state. His figure is like a butterfly, slowly falling from the sky cover of Zai Palace to the land of white sand. Am I wrong? At the same time, Huan Shenlan Ran reached out and grabbed it, directly pinching Beng Yu in his hand. The moment this collapsing jade was held by him, a state of crazy escape suddenly appeared. You give up, I specially prepared it for you, in order to cut off the connection between you and the host. He said softly, then drank, Doflamingo. As soon as the voice fell, two figures quickly approached in the distance. After a while, Doflamingo came with a silly face. Aizen-sama, follow your instructions, I have been protecting him. Very good. Aizen nodded with satisfaction, and immediately slapped the top of the broken face with a palm. The next moment, the face-breaking body trembled, and then quickly disintegrated into a unique spiritual power. As soon as Aizen got to Beng Yu, I started to prepare to capture it, but once Beng Yu is fused with the host, it can be called away whether it is in the body or not. Therefore, I want to cut off the relationship between you and the host. Contact. Quote. The phantom body blue-dyed Vivi Isho, and slowly put the collapsed jade in the right hand into the special spiritual pressure of the left hand. This broken face is a cage, specially made for you. However, at this moment, Aizen, who fell on the sand, suddenly stood up. His eyes are white, his consciousness is absent, only an instinct is in action. I'm not wrong, I'm the right way. In the roar, a surge of spiritual pressure suddenly burst out. In this literal meaning, it is a real spiritual pressure. This spiritual pressure directly broke through the sky cover and flew all the way to the sky. Seeing this, Wanshan Lanyan raised her eyebrows. I've been smashed to the viscera, can I still evolve to the next stage? Such a deep obsession. Chapter 0539_Emperor Qin's name. Boom. In the sky-high Reiki, Aizen's posture changed again. This time, he moved farther and farther away from the human form, and called Beng Yu because of his obsession in his heart. Beng Yu responded to his thoughts and pushed it again to advance to the next stage. I saw a gap similar to an eye on Aizen's forehead, the face turned black, and the previous facial skin was torn from the middle, and was located on both sides of the black face, and there were 3 holes in the upper body. The Zanpakuto was completely fused with the right hand, and at the same time, the original 6 huge butterfly wings had a skeleton growing on the ridges of each wing. He has completely lost the characteristics of death, and he looks like a phantom. Staring at Aizen with this gesture from a height, Aizen couldn't help shaking his head. It's getting uglier and uglier, you are approaching the virtual. No matter how you look at it, the current Aizen is a very special kind of emptiness. There are 3 emptiness holes in front of Shang. I am right. Aizen let out a roar, and his voice fell into the bottom of his. An incomparably heavy spiritual pressure emanated from his body, covering the entire Zai Palace. At this stage of Aizen, its spiritual pressure has surged again, and it has surpassed the phantom Aizen. Duo 820 Flamenco's body trembled as he gritted his teeth and said, this spiritual pressure is coming at Aizen-sama, I'm just being affected. It was hard for him to breathe, and it was just part of the leak that made it hard for him to move. It was as if Mian Yang, who was being stared at by a lion, was powerless because of fear. With you in this state, I really might not be able to beat you. Wanshan Lanyan's face was calm, and he talked eloquently. After all, I'm only in the first stage. Even if I can beat you, Shuyi Palace can't bear it. In that case I respectfully invite Lord Qin Emperor. As soon as the voice fell, a shadow of an illusory world suddenly appeared above the sky. That world is very peaceful, like heaven. In the picturesque world, one person stepped out, and in an instant, he came to Aizen. I haven't seen you for a long time, Aizen. Qin Yang observed Aizen in the 5th stage closely, and commented, the last time we met was in a dark voice. You were much stronger then than you are now. Emperor Qin. The unexpected development caused Aizen's crazy consciousness to cool down in an instant, his pupils shrank, and he stared at the man in front of him. Previously, the other one he called was Lord Qin Emperor. This short sentence revealed a lot of potential consciousness. Don't tell me you. That's it. Qin chuckled lightly. He is my deputy, the deputy leader of Dream. Hearing this, Aizen was shaken and fell into a sluggish state. Predict. Don't be so shocked. I didn't intend to appear at first, but you have evolved to the 5th stage, and I must come out to stop it. If you don't, you will continue to evolve. Once you enter the 6th or even 7th stage, you will completely devoured by the collapse jade, lost in the power, and turned into a berserk monster. At that time, it becomes a little troublesome to clean up. Quote. Qin is full of Yu's expression and looks calm, and it seems that he is not facing the 5th stage Aizen Soyusuk, but an ordinary empty head. Who will be dominated by Bengyu? I'm sober now. Aizen gritted her teeth and was extremely angry. He looked at Qin and was very shocked. I thought that at this point, the distance between him and Emperor Qin must have drawn a lot. But after the actual confrontation, he suddenly realized that the gap between the two sides has not shortened. Emperor Qin standing in front of him, in his opinion, still has the same feeling as before. As if there was nothing, if he closed his eyes, he wouldn't even know there was someone in front of him. Ordinary enough to be like a mortal. I don't believe it. The gap can't be so huge. Lan Ran roared. A skeleton with a winged ridge on its back suddenly opened its mouth, and a deep blue spiritual pressure converged into a ball and shot it violently at Emperor Qin. Radiant break. Whoosh. This young dark blue light bomb flew in front of Qin in an instant. Facing this blow, Qin gently stretched out his right hand. It's a bit like Super Void Bullet, a single blow could annihilate a city. But, between words, he grabbed it with one hand, and when Fu Li Po touched his palm, before it could explode, its existence began to collapse. It was as if the process of its formation had been reversed at this moment. This dark blue ball of light shrank rapidly in Qin palm, and finally completely annihilated under one claw. However, it doesn't make any sense. Qin chuckled. This kind of attack is still in the category of fantasy. I can easily erase it. How is it possible? Aizen's eyes widened, her expression froze. As the user of the move, he is very aware of the power of this blow, which is enough to wipe out a city in an instant, enough to turn a plane into the ultimate power of a canyon, and it was easily annihilated under this person's palm. Is this Emperor Qin? Is this the power of the Lord of Dreams? A despair was born in Aizen's heart, and the difference in strength has reached an incalculable level. In front of Emperor Qin, his 5th stage is just a babbling baby, and he seems very powerless. So nervous. If seeing the change in his heart, Qin Vivi raised his hand, and the power of yin-yang and the 5 elements was converging and turned into a spear. You merged with Bengyu and gained the power of immortality and immortality. I can easily suppress you, but I may not be able to kill you. Then try it. If you can survive, then I will spare you immortality. What do you want to do? Aizen's heart froze, and she felt timid. Looking at the spear above Qin head, he felt a sense of heart palpitations, and Bengyu sent a warning of extreme danger. The spear of creation is also the spear of destruction. It opens up the world and is reborn. Qin mouth was light, and then he waved his right hand forward, Heaven's Chang spear. Whoosh. This spear that shines the light of darkness, after the endless darkness gathers, slowly and quickly. Its shadow is long, like a dark light, suddenly shot out. This is one of the ultimate moves of the power of yin and yang and the 5 elements, which comes from the yin and yang that dominate the 6 spots. This trick, Liu Daoban himself can't do it, only Qin Emperor can use it by relying on phantom realization. Once, this blow destroyed the entire Holy Land Mariajoy, and now, this blow is used to deal with Aizen. As soon as the spear went, the entire virtual circle seemed to be divided into 2. Under the lock of the spear, Aizen's body was stiff, and the sense of crisis had overwhelmed his mind. No! He roared loudly, and the 6 skulls behind him spurted out dark blue light balls in unison, ultimate radiance. The circles formed one after another, as if to completely defend his position. However, all of this was pierced in just a moment when facing the heavenly Chang spear. I saw a flash of black light, and the blue-dyed Shang chamber was pierced by a spear. Whoosh! One person, one spear, was shot thousands of meters away in an instant. Lan Ran flew out of the Zai Palace and was pierced by tens of thousands of meters. Finally, with a bang, the power of darkness spread, like a poison that destroys the world, dissolving everything. Qin Emperor. In annihilation, Aizen let out a roar that resounded through the sky. Chapter 0540-Prisoners are also worthy of speaking. The power of the Chang spear of the sky is enough to open up the world, create and destroy the world. The real Chang spear of the sky is an artifact. What Qin Yang is using at the moment is just a man-made object after the realization of the illusion. It is blessed with the power of yin and yang and the 5 elements. The power is naturally not as powerful as the real Chang spear of the sky. However, even so, this blow is enough to destroy a large piece of sand in the inner circle of the virtual circle. Looking from a distance, 10,000 meters away, the original white sand land has disappeared, replaced by a dark pit. Above the sky canopy of Zai Palace, Doflamingo couldn't help taking a deep breath. As expected of Lord Qin, the power of a single blow is terrifying. Of his hand, and penetrates his own consciousness into it. Bengyu was wrapped in a special spiritual pressure, blocking its invisible connection with Aizen. You are just a dead thing. Although you have self-awareness, in the end, you are still a man-made object. There is no need to resist. After the fusion of the 2 collapsing jade, you will become stronger. Genshin Aizen said softly, if you still resist, I will have to erase your self-awareness. Aizen can't do it, Urahara Kazuki can't do it, but I can do it, you understand, I have other options. A piece of collapsing jade. The 2 pieces of collapsing jade were the same at first, but the hosts of the 2 were different, and they were also different from each other. At this moment, after listening to the voice of the fantasy body Aizen, it gradually gave up resistance. And with its abandonment, the connection between it and Aizen was completely cut off. Very good, then, it has begun to merge. Genshin Aizen chuckled lightly, you can enter the 2nd stage soon. The star restriction is about to be broken by me. At the same time, Qin Yang moved directly through the space. After a step, it has already appeared 10,000 meters away. He stood on the edge of the huge black pit, raised his feet and walked slowly towards the center. In the center of the deep pit, a dark body was lying quietly there. As expected of immortality and immortality, it is truly remarkable to withstand the blow of the Chang spear of the sky, and to keep the integrity of the corpse. Qin Yang said with praise. Of course, he praised Bengyu, not Aizen himself. As he stepped closer, Aizen, who was lying in the center of the dark pit, trembled with his finger Vivi. The next moment, the huge wound on the chest that was pierced by the spear began to wriggle, and the flesh and blood evolved and gradually regenerated. The regeneration speed is not fast, but it is actually recovering. Overspeed regeneration. Qin Yang raised his eyebrows. No, let's regenerate completely. Bengyu saved your life at the last moment. Relying on Aizen's own power, he must have died. Now that he can regenerate, it must be that Bengyu saved Aizen while giving up resistance. I saw Aizen who fell on his back. While the wound was repairing, his strength, consciousness, and breathing gradually returned. He moved his arms, supported the ground, and staggered to his feet. Qin Emperor Carrot. He stretched out his hand to touch Qin Yang, but after taking 2 steps, he thumped again and half knelt on the ground. I mean what I say. Since you can survive, let me spare your life. Hearing this, Aizen's body suddenly cracked. Ka. Starting from the head, the crack quickly spread to the whole body, and then with a bang, the white bone spiritual pressure on the outside was all shattered, including the 6 butterfly wings, all disappeared. Aizen's body was exposed naked, his complexion was pale, and the wound on his chest had been repaired. He didn't see much trauma on the outside, but his Reiatsu had been reduced to an outrageous level. The current him, the spiritual pressure strength, is about the same as a vice captain level spiritual pressure, at least 100 times lower. Ha 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 ha. A slight gasp, Eisen said slowly. The other one, I'm right, he's right, I'm on the wrong path of evolution, and the pursuit of speed will lead to this situation. He regained the calm that he used to be, and was completely different from the madness before. Now, my Zanpakuto has disappeared, and it has become one with me. In the end, I have embarked on the same evolutionary path as the other me. It's ridiculous. In the fourth stage, Zanpakuto had already merged with him. At the fifth stage, Zanpakuto completely lost its blade shape. In the end, he suffered a blow from the Chang Spear of Heaven, and his fifth stage was also broken, and everything returned to zero. At this time, his Zanpakuto was completely integrated with his soul, and it was exactly the same as the illusion of blue dye. Hearing this, Qinyang said calmly, as a god of death, you are very good. Even in the long history of the Soul Society, you are one of the best people. How, are you interested in joining me? Huh. Lan Ran was stunned and looked up at Emperor Qin. Do you know what you are talking about? He. Qinyang couldn't help but chuckle twice and said, Lan Ran, you don't know the power of Bengyu. Bengyu is a reflection of your heart. If you crave for power, it will let you continue to advance. The Chang Spear can't kill you, and Bengyu will make that happen. But in the end, your fifth stage is broken. Do you think it was my spear that ruined it all? Hearing this, Aizen's eyes narrowed, and she was speechless. You yourself gave up the fifth stage. Qinyang shook his head and said, you are born with excellent intelligence, ability, potential. No matter what, you are far superior to the people around you. You are self-consciously, dugu and seek defeat. Everyone is an idiot, but you still produce loneliness. You are too strong to exist without dreams like me. Who is your opponent? Yohabak. Pause, he continued. So, when you saw me, your heart was shaken, and after being penetrated by the Chang Spear of the sky, you had a strong desire to survive, so Bengyu let you live, and at the same time, you are looking forward to my strength again, but I don't rely on things like Bengyu at this time. You have an idea, a motivation. It is you who took the initiative to give up Bengyu. It was not that Bengyu gave up Aizen, but Aizen voluntarily gave up Bengyu. Because in the fifth stage, he was still far inferior to Emperor Qin. From this, he judged that Bengyu was not so important to him anymore. Since Emperor Qin could cultivate to such a state, he would definitely be able to do it as well. He has goals and motivation, so deep down, he has abandoned Bengyu. Thinking of this, Aizen Vivi Isho slowly got up. You're right, I do envision your power in this boring world. You're the only one who can surpass me. What, how did you think about it? Qinyang didn't want to talk nonsense with him anymore. I'm sorry, but I have no intention of giving in. Aizen was proud in her heart. Since I lost, let's do it. If I lose to you, I am convinced and have no resentment. Really? Qinyang nodded and pointed out immediately. Suddenly, the electric light flickered, and the power of thunder turned into a cage, trapping Aizen. Dead, you think too much. You still have a little value. I think the soul world must be very interested in you. You say, what price will I pay? They will buy you a traitor. Qinyang opened his mouth playfully. Hearing this, Lan Ran's face darkened, and she said angrily, Emperor Qin. A person like you would do such boring things. I despise you. As much as you despise. Is the prisoner below the order worthy of talking?